and welcome to the Computer Game Show. My name is Sean Bell. I'm joined by Matthew Murray.
Hello.
And he's fucking back. James Farley, you made it.
I did.
In one piece, but somewhat exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, that was a bit weird. I don't know what happened to my voice there.
But also your voice is broken since you've been away.
Well, I mean, we've been back like 2 days now, so it's okay, but it's still the 7-hour time difference. And I always find, I was saying to Matt earlier, it's like it takes about 3 or 4 days to like readjust back to it. But
I was going to say, I thought the rule was like 1 day for every hour's difference before you fully... Okay.
That's bullshit. But the thing about it is, I mean, it's for me, and like, Chen, it's not so bad, but it's for the kids that it's the problem. And so you've got like the situation where we came back and then they're up at like 2 a.m. every day. And it's like, go back to bed. It's like, you can't, this isn't going to work. And then, I mean, you basically just, get over that by forcing them to stay awake for like the whole day. And then, so they've been awake for nearly 24 hours by this point. So they're completely wasted. And
they're in a really good mood about that, I assume.
Yeah. They're usually really, really happy. But no, because usually, like with my children, they're still fighting going to bed, even at that stage. Like, they're still just like, I'm not tired, I'm not going to bed. And it's like, you clearly are. It's you need to go to bed. But so we get that every time. But it's good to be back, I think. Yeah, it's
obviously, are they at school like tomorrow?
Yeah, they go back tomorrow.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that'll be great fun.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping it's going to make them really tired, so then when they come home, they'll go to bed. I mean, this is what I'm really, really praying is going to happen. It's I mean, we know people who are like go to China and then they come back and then they send their kids to school like the next day. And I'm just thinking, how can you do that? It's like it's. I mean, even a couple of days, I feel a bit bad about it. And we were just glad there was like a bank holiday or whatever because it made it even worse. But I don't know.
Are you back in work or are you
tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow I'll be back. Yeah,
Christ.
But I'm looking forward to that. Finally, get back to my office. I haven't got anybody bothering me. Well, I will have, but
close the door.
It's going to be really
table.
Yeah, I mean, you see, we were staying over there, and we were staying in like a 1-bedroom apartment, and there was like 6 of us, so it's a bit intense, and we've had the children the whole time, like, on top of us, and so I'm looking forward to them going back to school. It's going to be good.
Nice. Yeah, well, I'm glad you've had a lovely holiday.
Yeah, no, it was all right this time actually. I mean, it was not as bad as previous experiences I've had, and I felt a bit bad about coming back, mostly because I didn't want to come back to Brexit Britain, and it was really nice, like not to hear any of that for like 2 weeks.
But
or so.
The thing is, like, because it's been like a parliamentary break, like we've also heard nothing about it. So you actually left in like the worst period because it's been like no Brexit talk for 2 weeks, and now they're back. Well, like next week, isn't it? So you're going to hear it's like you coincided your holiday exactly with their holiday.
I was trying to explain it to like people that I know over there, and they were like, "What's going on?" And I just said, "Well, we're doing this. That we're supposed to be leaving the European Union," and they were just like, "Why?" And it's like, I'm like, that's a whole can of worms. Like everything there, it's like, that wasn't fun.
So, well, basically, lies and racism and some like maybe valid economical arguments, but anyway.
Did you explain the whole customs union and single market thing to them?
I did to some people actually, and they were loving that. It was like then I got onto the backstop. I started explaining that as well.
Let's go onto the backstop.
Right. Should we?
Well, did you?
No.
Did you hear last week's show?
I did hear last week's show. Yeah, it was good. It was a good episode. I also watched the live show as well. I saw that while I was over there because I did that thing because I subscribed to like YouTube Premium while I was there so that I could download stuff because. Forget about like streaming anything; it's impossible like with the VPN. So I managed to like download it and watch it. It was really good. I felt really sad not to be there because I thought you guys were brilliant, and it was.
Thank you. It was. We thought we were just fucked, weren't we, Matt?
Yeah.
And Dave was knackered as well.
So tired.
It didn't show. Yeah. It was like I thought you were. Yeah, I thought it was really good. Especially, my favourite bit I've said before was the stuff about the snooker. I mean that was incredible. Like this idea of just
that was a good bit.
Yeah,
it was the fact I went to try and play it and they were using that section as basically
just for like storage.
It's just I'm there like bobbing my head up. No one's playing, but they've got why are they blocking the screen? Why isn't this? What's no queue?
I was
it's
really
a shame you weren't there, James.
Yeah, I was really glad we got the video stuff sorted, though. It's making me think we should do more with that next time, because we haven't really bothered previously, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and considering it was just like filmed on my phone and with like Sean's tripod and stuff, I think it worked out really well. But it was so much harder, James, without you there. I mean, we really missed you, and actually most of like that day, I was like, a fair few times I looked over my shoulder, thinking, "Oh, are we missing someone?" I realised obviously you weren't there. I was like, "It's just me." So I was looking around for you, even though I knew you weren't there. But it was so much harder without you on stage. Like, with just three of you, it makes a huge difference.
It does. Like, just having that fourth person there just to fill in any gaps or whatever makes a massive difference. But yeah, roll on EGX 2019 it's in October this year, isn't it?
Yeah, late October.
That's
yes,
good.
And your video went down a storm, which is
it did.
Yeah, that was not a lot of fun to record. I'll be honest. It was.
It was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I mean, it was 2 days after we'd been there, and I wanted to go somewhere that was like rubbish to record it, but like Trem wouldn't let me. She was like, "No, we've got to go somewhere that like is famous or whatever." And also, you see, I had this idea I was going to record it in a restaurant in the beginning, but then it's like just chaos and too much noise. And I thought it'd be funny. I was gonna sit there and eat like barbecue, like while I was like recording it. I thought it'd be quite good. But that didn't go down very well, that idea. So instead,
when you said you wanted to go somewhere rubbish, or what did you have in mind? Like sort of like a back street with like, you know, loads of like what obviously where you shot the video is like what was it, like a bay or dock or something? And I had like
that's like the center. It's like the Bund. It's like the center of like Shanghai. It's
so
like
nice and picture it nice in the background. But where did you originally like want to get it shot then? Like down some dark alleyway?
Well, yeah, basically. I mean, the thing is where I was living, like, because I live far, far away from there. Like, I live on the outskirts of like Shanghai. It's like it used to be an old town that then got incorporated into the city, and it's basically just farmers everywhere. And I was going to do it there, but Chen wouldn't let me, which I felt a bit sad about. But
so my favourite bit of that was so I was talking to Andy afterwards, Andy Hamilton, and he was sat next to a mate of ours who doesn't listen to the show, but he turned up anyway. And he was like, during that whole bit, he was like leaning over to Andy, being like, "Why is this funny? Why is everyone laughing?" And Andy said, "No, what you don't understand is he's legitimately miserable in this video."
And it's true.
Every second of this.
When I was recording that, absolutely, because I had people. The other reason I wanted to do it somewhere far away is so then people wouldn't be like watching really what I was doing. Because where I was like one of the major tourist destinations, and it's like there's just people walking past, and then there was this one guy who kept on walking past, and then just standing like uncomfortably close to me, just grinning at me. And it was very uncomfortable. I didn't enjoy it.
It's so weird because I know. So when we did EGX last year, you know, we all sort of vaguely said, "Oh, it'd be cool if we all like filmed stuff like on our way to Birmingham, and do like a little video." And then we all sort of agreed we felt weird doing it. But and it's so weird because obviously you see so much stuff on YouTube, people just filming themselves walking around and talking at the camera, that you sort of think, oh, well, that's just the age we live in now. No one feels weird about that anymore. But it's like, no, I would feel really weird about it. And if I saw someone doing it, I would think they were a dick.
Yeah.
Which is really unfair.
Yeah. I definitely look like a dick. So it was awful. That's why I was trying to get it through like as quickly as possible, because I was like, I need to get out of here. And, you know, then I got like my son down there going like, "Why are we doing this? Can we just go?" And all this kind of thing. It's just, it was awkward.
Yeah, because you can't really be like, "Well, it's Daddy's job." Because it's not really. It's
not, no.
technically a hobby. Which is
and yet I'm here doing this video. That is great.
But yeah, it
was really good. Anyway, glad to have you back. Yeah. Right, housekeeping, not a lot. Just to remind you that we stream every week, quite a lot. And it's a lot of fun, and you should watch. So every Friday, James is streaming. You're still doing Deadly Prem, yeah?
Yeah, do you know, I missed that. Actually,
Okay.
I genuinely missed it the other week. Do you know, we came back on Friday night, and we got back at about, I think it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I was genuinely tempted to just hop on and say, "Okay, let's continue. Let's get going with this again," because I think I'm near the end, and yeah, I'm quite excited about that.
You got any thoughts about what you're going to do after?
No, although I'm thinking I want to play something that I actually want to play, which I haven't.
That's fair.
I've never done that before, so it's or maybe
this is when I have to switch over to FIFA, because I've been having it pretty easy so far. But yeah, sorry. So yeah, James streams Daily Premonition every Friday at 9 p.m. Matt is streaming Bloodborne every Sunday at 8:30. How's that going, Matt? I didn't catch yours yesterday.
I was in a really crappy area. It's like the Nightmare Frontier.
Oh God, yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of it, but I did get to the boss, and I guess I'll try that boss again probably next week. But yeah, I just wasn't a fan of the area, and yeah. Also, I had like a full day of like sun and a couple of beers earlier, and it was a bit. And also, I hadn't streamed for 10 days. It felt like forever, and I was a bit, it was fine. But I'm looking forward to next week's, shall we say?
And then every Tuesday, I play a mysterious indie. Sometimes it's a mystery, sometimes it isn't. Every Tuesday I play an indie game at 9 p.m. and people talk about door etiquette in an office and how to correctly use dice and airblade. And it's a great time.
Yeah, I've been meaning to clip that and put that because it was a great little conversation.
Well, I ended up having an argument with Chris Spann about it because he was like, hang on, and basically his YouTube recommendations are now apparently all just like hand dryer tutorials.
Tutorials?
Yeah, they exist on YouTube apparently. Anyway, it's really not that interesting. So, if you are enjoying the streams or even if you just want to support us in general, you can subscribe to us on Twitch. But also, if you have Amazon Prime, you also have Twitch Prime, which means you can basically means you've got one free sub to give away each month, which costs you nothing, but it does give us a little bit of money. We actually did all right out of that this month, didn't we? Because Twitch have changed how they pay people, which meant we got 2 kickbacks in one go.
Yeah, we basically had 2 payments over a weekend. It was the best thing ever.
And it's no coincidence that in the same month I've got a new webcam and my new tiny 7-inch monitor to help me do streaming stuff. So much appreciated. It does help.
It really is. I mean, people might think, it's just some free thing from Twitch, but of Amazon and Twitch, but it really does make a huge difference. So we really appreciate every one of them.
Yeah, totally. And the fact that like you have to redo it every month, like I forget to do it. So the fact that people actually bother to, there's like people who've been doing it for like 18 months straight and stuff is really nice. Really appreciate it. Feedback. I mean,
can I do
James,
my feedback?
Do you want to go first?
Because I have got some.
Okay, looking forward to this.
I mean, it's mostly from last week actually, because the live show I thought was really good, and I didn't really have anything much with that. I mean, there was only one thing I did want to ask you about though. Is I don't remember, but was there anything that really like blew you all away this year? Because I remember like last year, like Onrush was like kind of a big deal. But was there anything like that at all? Or not really?
It was, I've forgotten what. Heave-Ho, the sort of party game where we were all grabbing onto each other and swinging around and dying and stuff. I think that was the only.
That was easily the best one. I wouldn't. Nothing blew us away, I don't think, this year. But that Heave-Ho was easy the best.
That was the only one as a collective that we were all really enthused about, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Snooker 19 was pretty. It was up there, sure. But...
I mean, if we'd all played it, I'm sure we'd all be on the same page.
Different game of the show. We should get those little like stickers, like IGN and GameSpot have, and they stick them on the
some awards,
big E3 things. Yeah, we should do it for EGX and for Res, like big TCGS game of the show. Okay, I'm doing that. That'd be hilarious. Because no one else does it, as far as I'm aware. So, and
it's such an easy, it's good publicity for us as well. It's just been quite good fun.
But I'm going to make them massive, rather than maybe like a hand size sticker, sticky sort of like board. I'm gonna do almost like a massive comedy check. So, and see, you actually think it's like the TCGS stand. It'd be so big. You're like,
that'd be great.
What's this stand? No, that's just because our game won Game of the Show, but also it's more advertising for their podcast than it is my game. So I was
going to say my favourite kind of award is where it's actually like an imposition. Like it's actually something they've got to deal with rather than something they're happy to have. So massive comedy check would be great.
In that case, you need to put some make it so that they're so they're really sticky, so it's almost impossible to pull them off without ripping everything,
without destroying their stand,
destroying everything. Yeah.
Right, go on, James. Is this going to be a full-on Turner style savaging, or is
you're going to rip us a new one?
Full roasting?
Not really.
Mate.
I've just got a couple of queries, really.
Okay.
So that sounds worse. That's like
I was going to say
I'm not unhappy. I'm just disappointed. That's like
just explain the following. Yeah.
I mean, when as I said to you, I had 14 points originally, but I've narrowed a lot of them down because some of them they don't matter.
Thank you.
It doesn't matter. So I've narrowed it down. I mean, the first thing. I mean, you were discussing your hunter's pie, Sean.
Oh yeah,
that you had at the pub. That sounded really nice. Matt suggested that it should have been left on my chair. What do you mean by that, Matt? Why would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, that didn't work because the meet was actually after the live show, so I don't quite know what I don't remember
Why did you
saying
leave a pie on my chair? What are you insinuating?
I don't know. Well, the fact we left an empty chair on stage, which none of us clocked until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
See, I don't remember this, which means I probably heard it and thought, well, I don't get it, but it's probably just me being thick. And
it's almost only me being thick. Have you got the exact sentence I said?
No, you just suggested that the hunter's pie should have been left on my chair.
I don't know. I don't know where that even came from because it was after the show. But good catch.
Okay. Okay. Next one. Okay. So there was this whole thing about Games World as well, and this I thought was weird because Matt, you said you hadn't heard of Games World. But didn't you wonder who Big Boy Barry was at that Retro Asylum event that we went to EGX?
Yeah, I definitely wondered. Yeah,
really?
Then because I hadn't heard of him, but someone was like, oh, it's some like 80s gaming presenter. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever.
I'm sure you had
because we did get a tweet about this from Stanchel, didn't we? He says, Yes, who said, just to confirm, I meant Dave is very facially expressive rather than fat. Can't believe nobody remembered Games World, home to Big Boy Barry. And then just say perhaps Farley is more in the relevant age demographic. So I knew Big Boy Barry, but I never saw him on Games World.
What channel was it on? Was it a Sky thing?
I think it was a Sky thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, posh.
Yeah, I didn't have Sky back in those days.
To be rich as fuck.
I didn't have Sky either, but I was aware of it. But I never watched it.
The only one of my friends who had Sky were basically they had Sky and had Soda Stream. So I'm like, oh, millionaires, bloody millionaires in the
salad
80s.
Out of a wooden bowl. Fuck yeah.
Carbonated drinks. A big. No, I didn't have Sky.
We've seen more than 4 episodes of The Simpsons that they got off VHS.
But I was like, oh, this is amazing. And they had Nickelodeon back in those days, which was quite exciting.
Big That was also when MTV was good as well. Like,
and MTV too. Let's not get into it. You remember when there used to be like music videos on those? No. It's just adverts these days, isn't it? No. So Big Boy Barry, when he was a guest on the Retro Asylum thing at EGX, I was a bit like, who is this guy? Yeah, I hadn't the faintest idea.
Well, because didn't they get a phone call? Or maybe it was when they were first organising. I remember Paul was saying they basically said like, "Do you want?" I think his real name's Alex, right? And he said like, "Do you want Alex or do you want Big Boy Barry?" And he's like, "I want Big Boy Barry." So he came on in the full get up in character.
So Big Boy Barry, please.
So I presume when they mentioned Games World last week, you would have like piped up and you were a big fan, were you, James?
I told you I never watched it, but I was aware of it.
Oh, okay, aware of it.
Yeah.
Okay, what else you got?
Next thing is, so your Anthem discussion was shocking.
Okay, why was that?
I mean,
because you're such a big fan of the game.
Well, no,
how would you have handled it with grace and
I'll tell you how I would have handled it, Matt. I would have read the fucking article. Is what I would have done. That was the thing that surprised me the most.
You barely read past the headline on news stories. Would you have read a 20,000 word article? Actually, you would have done because it slags off Anthem. So definitely,
I did. I had read the entire article because it was really interesting. And it's like that's the thing. If I hadn't have read any of that, I'd have got a load of abuse if I'd have brought that article and if I'd have come on just saying I don't really know what it says. I just want some bullet points, or I can watch a YouTube video. It's like that was ridiculous. Like the fact that you couldn't be bothered to like read it. It wasn't even that long. Like it wasn't a massive. I mean, I'm just reading this. Have you this Rockstar one that somebody's written? On Polygon.
Yeah, the Polygon thing.
I'm at 3/4 of the way through that. Now that's a long article, and which has got issues. But
because the Anthem one was 10,000 words, I think.
Yeah, some of those.
I mean, to me, that's I'm quite stupid, so that's a lot of words.
Mm. But either way, it's.
I mean, what did we miss then?
Yeah, go on.
One of the things you said that was. Well, no, one of the things that you said that was interesting was because you said about this whole thing about how EA put their foot down about putting the flying in. That isn't necessarily accurate. It was like the way that came about was the fact that they were desperately trying to do anything to try and impress EA to kind of keep it going, and it wasn't fully working. But then they just about managed to get it going for when they came to see it, and then EA were like, "Yeah, that's great. I want that." And that was it. But so that was good. But I mean, I was just shocked that you hadn't read it.
So you're saying that they saw the flying, said we want the flying? Is that what you're saying?
No, they said they. What do you mean?
Well, let's move on. I think Sean won that one. Let's move next point.
Okay. What else have we got here? Okay. So we've got Darren on dangerous driving. Okay, so he was talking about super noodles. Now you can add something to them. I don't agree with that. I mean, you can't. Whatever you add to super noodles, they never taste good. They're always terrible. James said
you can have things like tuna and peas and bulk them up a bit.
Yeah, but it's just the sauce is terrible.
Still bad noodles.
It's still
I haven't had them since university, but back in the day, it was like them tuna, some peas, and like four slices of toast. That'll fill you up for 2 days.
No, it's terrible. Really terrible. Also, James said that he was talking about my daughter's birthday. I didn't skip my daughter's birthday. I just changed the day so that she could have her mum back from Shanghai at the same time.
You can say that as many times as you want, James. It doesn't come off well.
Yeah,
I understand. Right, it's not fair because there's nothing you can do about this because I get it and I am basically on your side, but just in principle, it sounds terrible.
She was 2 years old. She didn't know. It's fine. It's absolutely
Who was I talking
fine.
to? I was talking to someone. Oh fuck, who was it? Someone the other day who was like, "Oh yeah, it's like our kid's birthday soon. We've just not told them yet. We're just going to tell them on the day." And just
how old is the kid? Like 19.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Go on, James.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, you talked about WarioWare not being the twisted one not being released in Europe. This wasn't because of Mercury. That's like a common misconception.
Okay.
But yeah, it just didn't come out in the end. It was
fair enough.
But also because it didn't use Mercury. It used like a gyroscope thing. That was it.
Okay. Is that a thing with other games then? Have I completely
I think it was one of those things where it was like a urban legend kind of thing. That people were they thought it was kind of real, but maybe not.
Epidemic of teenagers breaking open cartridges and drinking the mercury out of them to have
give them superpowers or something.
Yeah.
Also, finally, Sean, why am I Toad, and why would I enjoy having my dick repeatedly stamped on?
You tell me, mate. Tell me.
Why did you choose Toad? What's that about?
I don't know. I was very tired by that point. I don't know if you noticed. It was quite a long show.
I know. I've seen the notes. It's yeah.
I mean, Darren, bless him. It was great having them both on, but I checked, and what you've been playing bit, just his bit was 45 minutes long.
I know, but I looked on the other thing, and there was also about 30 games on there as well. Which,
he'd marked loads of them as like, I'll just be quick about this one. One of the quick ones was Sea of Thieves. That was about 15 minutes.
Yeah. But no, I mean,
but it was like, but there was if there had been like any particular game where he was, not particularly entertaining, I'd have been like, Matt, do you want to just lock that out? But unfortunately, he was good throughout, so we had to.
It's a shame he could talk to Donkey Kong 64, Sean. You cut that out.
Do you know, I was so relieved. I was so relieved you cut that because I was not in the mood to hear about Donkey Kong 64 because that is a terrible game. No matter what anybody says, it's not very good.
Yep.
But yeah,
unbelievable.
But apart from that, it was good. James and Darren were great. I thought they were really good. It was good to listen to.
I mean, I suppose for a 3-hour show, that's not many complaints, really.
Yeah, it's just a couple of weird bits, but no, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Cool. Right, Matt, do you want to guide us through the feedback that actually matters? Because it's
there wasn't actually
listeners.
a massive amount. We got tons of great feedback, obviously, about Darren and James's performance last week.
They were both brilliant. It was really nice having them on.
They were excellent. Yeah, Gareth at Gary_Parry on Twitter. I thoroughly enjoyed this week's computer game show. Even better, it was an extended director's cut over 3 hours long. A highlight being Carter, Jay speaking excellently about Sekiro and mirroring many of my own positive feelings. Freelance Police, love Desmond and Carter, Jay on Computer Game Pod. It's like when your favourite series do ridiculous crossovers with unexpected results, like Toad's crotch.
Nice.
So I've got a clip that bit where you said, "Why am I Toad and why do I want my dick stamped on?" That's getting clipped, James. Okay. Matt is less happy at _Stokesy. Computer Game Pod has betrayed some core principles of this week's guests. For shame.
Is this because of Dave's beef with them?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, that's not us.
Core
new regime, mate. It's fine.
Yeah, it's so friendly, this shit. I bloody love Kane and Vince. Always have done.
They've only invited me on one show this year, though, which I think is, relatively speaking, is a bit of a snubbing. So maybe there is a bit of tension.
I thought you was about to say, well, actually, I've got 2 invites this week from them. That's not the case. I mean, no one reads the show notes, but in the show notes, I said Darren and James from Little Enthusiast podcast, Kane and Rince, are on this week. But no one reads that stuff, so it's all good. Okay, SMW. James 2 utterly nails it on game difficulty this week. Really well expressed. Did someone forget to tell him it's not that kind of show?
I was almost bitter as he was going through that, because I was like, is he rehearsed this? It's too good.
Yeah.
Like he'd written it down and he was just like, I've written this essay and it's brilliant and I'm just going to read it now. I was like, no, you're supposed to be sort of half-baked and not really quite understanding what you're saying as you're saying it. That's how we roll.
I've spoken to James for I guess years now on Twitter, but I didn't actually realise he was Scottish. I never actually heard his voice nor spoken to him before, so it was a bit of a surprise. But yeah,
you have just admitted you don't listen to Kane and Rince. You do realise that?
I don't. Honestly, I've not got time. I
just haven't listened to any of the ones with him on it. It's fine.
or any of the ones of anyone on it, actually, to be fair, because we hate them. So we've gone through Stan's whole thing. James, are you more in the relevant age demographic? So when was Games World on? It was on clearly when we were all...
early 90s, wasn't it?
It was early 90s, yeah. So it would have been. I was in the right age range, yeah.
Right age range and also right sort of financial situation to be able to afford. Did you also have a Soda Stream?
My dad was so mean. He would never have Sky or anything like that.
Did he have a Soda Stream?
No.
Did you have one, Sean?
No, I have one now.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, it was when I had that phase of making my own soft drinks. So you need one, unless you're going to get into like actually brewing them, where like bottles can explode in your kitchen and stuff.
Yeah.
So I got a Soda Stream.
I guess these days having like Sky and Soda Stream isn't quite what it was.
No.
I wonder what the equivalent is these days.
It's
what is it?
Netflix and Hot House, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, my dad's got Netflix and he drinks Hot House. So you guys must be loaded. Yeah, he got a 4K add-on. Yeah, it's next to $2.99. We're not playing games here. Speaking of playing games, we talked about last week about playing one-handed games. Yes, James, it went in that direction. At Alex79UK, a game you can play with one hand is a Gardens Between. Every button you need is on both sides of the pad. Yeah, that's brilliant. I can't believe we didn't.
Yeah. I was really, when you read a tweet, I'm fucking really annoyed.
I can't believe
it's a really good point. A fantastic game. And yeah, totally. Like, all the games we were talking about, it's like, well, you could sort of manage, like, because, if it's something not particularly fast paced or whatever. Whereas, Gardens Between is like fully, playable like that. So, yeah, totally.
Yeah, Carol Goes Moo on our Discord. Playing games one-handed. I had a one-handed controller for playing FF7 on PlayStation. Not sure if it's this exact one, but if not, there was a very similar one out as well. Probably still got it somewhere. We'll have a look when I see my brother at the weekend. And it was his ASCII grip like PlayStation controller. I should put a picture in our show notes. But I do remember seeing this like one-handed controller. It looks a bit like a remote control with like the PlayStation buttons. Someone has almost certainly beaten Dark Souls on that, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely.
That's a guarantee. And that's it for follow-up and feedback. We didn't have much this week. It was all basically loads of positive messages about our guest last week. If you want to leave us any positive or negative messages, it's at ComputerGamePod on Twitter, or you can email podcast@thecomputergameshow.com.
James, I've got a confession to make.
What?
I have forgotten what I was going to do for the news intro this week.
No, you can't do this, Sean.
You have to do it on the fly now.
No, I can't. Honestly, it was a couple of days ago, and I thought something, and I was like, right, that's perfect. And it was like, the joke was it was actually going to be a really short one, and it was sort of that was why it was going to be funny. And it's gone. It's completely gone.
I'm very disappointed.
I'm disappointed in myself.
You have to do it on the fly now.
Do it on the fly.
You have to do it on the fly.
Do the ending to 2001 where he gets his brain expanded by aliens and he has loads of weird visions and stuff, and then he's like he's a space baby. Do that, but the news, and I'm the space baby.
Okay, so I'm going to expand your mind, Sean, with some.
Please do.
With some quality news.
Sean is the space baby.
Yeah, I will be by the end of this.
There was actually a whole bunch of news this week, which was quite good because, that was the other problem with the live show, as you noted, Sean, was that by the time I recorded that, there was nothing had happened. Yeah. So the news was terrible. It was. I was really scraping the barrel. There was nothing. But in the week since last week, there's been quite a lot of stuff. So the first thing was this, the PlayStation 5 details that kind of hit So this was Wired who broke the story last week, and they gave this sort of presentation, and that was led by Mark Cerny, and they didn't confirm that it's called PlayStation 5, but obviously it's going to be, and some studios have already got the development kits, and Cerny he's like the lead system architect again, and they kept on saying that this is going to be more of a revolution than an evolution, but you read the details and you're thinking that doesn't sound terribly revolutionary, apart from they're really focusing on this idea of the SSD. That's going to be the big game changer for them, is having maybe solid state.
Which I find a bit weird, because SSDs have been in PCs and laptops for ages, and if you wanted, you could put one in your PS4 right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It will be better, no doubt about it. It just seems like a strange thing to really pin it on.
The line that Sony says is, the key question, Sony says, is whether the console adds another layer to the sorts of experiences you already have access to, or if it allows for fundamental changes in what a game can be. The answer in this case is the latter. So, but then things like, I mean, we'll probably cover, but incredible loading, SSD, that sort of stuff. A lot of these are obviously major improvements, and maybe they're so major that we can't foresee what changes they can bring. But it doesn't really sound like it. Just sounds better.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, part of
maybe
the thing
cover what it says, I guess.
Well, part of what he was talking about is this idea that there are things that we can't envisage that this could bring. The idea that, especially for big open worlds and everything, you can render things so much faster. This means you can make things maybe more interactive than they are at the moment. And it does sound like there is some potential here, and it certainly would be better than the what we've currently got at the moment. Every time I've stuck an SSD in a computer, I've been amazed by how much better.
Well, this is it. So Cerny apparently says at one point, "I have an SSD in my laptop, and when I want to change from Excel to Word, I can wait 15 seconds, mate. Probably get Sony to buy you a new laptop, because that one sounds fucked. That's not a thing.
It should be instant." That's the whole thing,
Yeah. I get his point that, yes, not all SSDs are the same. Some are better than others, but that's just a fucked laptop.
That was the other point he was making, was just saying that the transfer speeds that they're talking about are far in advance of anything currently available for PCs.
Okay.
Yeah, this is kind of the thing. Yeah, but they can't be drawn on the details. But there was a couple of other things. There's also they're talking about this 3D audio as well. And apparently this is going to work through TV speakers. No idea how that will work, but also through headphones. Yeah. And it will work with PSVR as well, which is a nice, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the fact that current PSVR headsets will work with it is good. It means that, I guess what it means is, if anyone's in the market for PSVR and they're worried about PS5 compatibility, that's don't worry about it. Buy one of these things now, it will work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you're bothered, the way you do 3D audio with just stereo speakers or whatever is, as well as when you hear something behind you, as well as it being quieter, because the sound has travelled through essentially the back of your head or the back of your ears, it's filtered in a slightly different way. And because our brains are actually much cleverer than we realise, they can understand if they hear a familiar noise but filtered in that way, you do still sort of perceive it as being behind you. The thing that makes it not quite work is that we also without realizing, we sort of adjust the position of our heads, and then the brain sort of measures I turn to the left and now everything sounds different in these following ways, and that sort of helps with positioning and stuff. So it kind of works, but it won't be the same as it will be with so obviously PSVR is brilliant because it's tracking your head movement and can therefore adjust how that processing is taking place accordingly. So that works a lot better. But intrigued to see what it can do.
Xbox One X currently has Dolby Atmos, and that isn't just which direction, but actually the height of audio. And you can unlock that just by paying £15 for the app, or you download the app, but you pay £50 to unlock the capabilities, and that gives you Dolby Atmos on your headphones and stuff, and also if you've got an Atmos receiver. But so yeah, Xbox already has that, but. And when I bought my first set of surround sound headphones, I'm like, oh wow, this is a totally different experience. It was amazing playing Battlefield 3, which is I think the first game I properly played on them. In fact, you can hear where people are coming from and how, and that just adds another dimension to these sorts of games. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Because it's one of those things surround sound is like it's been around for ages, but it's one of those ones where like, look, just most people's living rooms just aren't set up for it. It's just not going to happen. So
well, it's just expensive and hassle to set up, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I know that there are like wireless solutions now, but they're expensive. So yeah.
Actually, right. So my mate who had Sky and a Soda Stream also had surround sound. He was Grant was loaded. just I fully realized. I saw his house was massive, so yeah, it all makes sense now.
So
yeah,
also, I mean, sorry, Matt.
No, I was going to say, in terms of surround sound, yeah, I mean, like most people's rooms and places aren't set out for it, and I think a lot of people are happy with the good enough speakers on their TV, and then other people have gone for the soundbar route. I know, like, I mean, I've just got stuck with my TV. I know if I got a soundbar or extra speakers, it would sound a lot better, but...
I use headphones, like, pretty much all the time when I play games. So
for games I do, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I am a hi-fi separates dickhead, so I've got an AV amp and a pair of hi-fi speakers and stuff. But I mean, for the room and the wiring involved, I do fully get why people just go for a soundbar these days. So yeah.
So also, I mean, the other deal with this is, I mean, it's got this like 8-core like AMD chip, and it's got like the ray tracing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's got the ray tracing,
which I know is ray tracing.
Yeah, it's apparently got that, so that's good.
Which I know is a big deal. Like it is a notoriously difficult thing to do. So fine, but obviously it's one of those where sort of if you're a programmer, you'd be like, "Oh fuck, this is great." For us, it's like we will get nicer looking games again.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like the Battlefield, the most recent Battlefield, like Battlefield 5. There's like a rate that's obviously you can get if you've got certain Radeon 2080 cards. I think you can do like ray tracing. Don't correct me. I know that's probably wrong, but anyway, I've seen the video and it does look amazing when you see like the reflection of say like fire in the reflection of a car. The difference between like what ray tracing does and what it's like without that. So yeah, it's going to make games look amazing basically. And obviously this has been talked about loads at GTC. You know, it's games like Battlefield, like I just mentioned. I think maybe the latest Tomb Raider game has got it, and also that Metro Exodus has also got it. So it's starting to happen. Obviously, you need like really, really beefy PCs, really beefy graphics cards. But it's exciting that this is on board because I had discussions only a few weeks ago. People saying, "Will it even be on the next gen consoles? Will it be too expensive? This, that, and the other." So it's cool that they are implementing that.
Yeah,
sure.
And in terms of because the worry I always have whenever we get a new generation of consoles is like, okay, everything's going to look better, but it's also going to be more expensive to produce because higher fidelity and more work involved, etc. But I'm intrigued as to like this sort of recurring thing that like games that age well are ones with like striking art styles rather than necessarily like looking realistic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, yeah, if they're shoving in things that it's like you don't have to spend a ton of... Like, you're just flicking on lighting effects left, right, and centre. That's a lot easier for people to do than, like, spend hundreds and hundreds of hours animating things and doing highly detailed textures and models and all the rest of it.
Yeah, for sure,
yeah.
Okay.
Go on.
So, I mean, also it's going to have physical media, obviously, and it's going to be backwards compatible with the PS4, which I think is a very good thing.
Oh, is that... okay. That is fairly massive, to be fair, because they have sort of got away with not really bothering for some time now.
It's only cool. Well, yeah, I was going to say it's only for one generation, but it's not, is it? Because the PS3 didn't do PS2, or it did in the beginning, but then that was
it did for launch, and then
they took it out because people were just playing PS2 games on the PS3.
So that's good. I mean, I'll tell you what's really weird, because then also the other thing I had this week was that you've got the Xbox One S, like, all digital edition, like, details, like, they've announced this. And, because I'm just going to go into this, because there's these...
in terms of the... It also does 8K, I mean, that isn't going to be a thing
that's
for games.
That's good if you own a cinema.
But that's not that... Like, I don't even think that's going to be a thing for games for, like... For many, I mean, I guess they're
but people always say that, Matt, and then it's like, I mean, people said that about 4K as well. They were like, oh, everyone's going to be using 1080p for at least 10 years, and it's like, it doesn't work like that. As soon as the TV manufacturers, like, as soon as 4K starts to slow down, they'll be shunting those out.
Because basically, HDMI 2.1 like has support for up to 8K. Yeah, and I think actually the current Xbox One X does that also. So maybe they just think, oh, it's got HDMI 2.1, but that isn't as sexy as saying 8K gaming.
Right,
it said 8K support, it didn't say gaming. But,
so technically it can support it, doesn't mean it'll
Yeah, I mean, the current PlayStation struggles to do like 4K for a lot of stuff. So anyway, but whatever. It's I guess they're thinking ahead. Do you guys? Before we go on to the Xbox One, did you think it was weird how information sort of came out with like an exclusive wired piece rather than
not really
one of their own?
No, okay. I thought this was odd because it's one of those. It's like it's not really a big juicy announcement or anything. It's just like some details that are cool if you really care. So yeah, I don't know, a weird sort of soft approach to announcing. I mean, obviously we all knew it was happening eventually, but yeah, I thought it was odd. But
see, I didn't think it was that odd because it feels to me like they're obviously not anywhere near ready yet with this.
Yeah,
and they've got to say something because they need to sort of poison Microsoft's well a bit, don't they? Before E3.
Yeah,
and so this was I think that's what this was about. It was just
I definitely thought it was weird, but because I first saw it was when PlayStation retweeted Wired, or maybe they just had a tweet. It's like details on PlayStation 5. I'm like, that sounds like a rumor piece.
Yeah.
But it's the actual official PlayStation account sharing this. So I thought that was strange. And then when I saw it, it's like, oh, it's just like a Wired interview. Like that's pretty weird. And then thinking more about it, I guess like when they come to their actual like announcement or unveiling, like I guess this means that they don't have to spend like 10-15 minutes on specs because we know that.
Yeah, true.
And they can get straight into like the games and the functionality we want to see. No one's going to want to see like a big like spreadsheet, a big slide with like here's those numbers. I mean, and yeah, so I guess it means to get out early. And I think you're also totally right, James. Like all the conversations being about Xbox, what they're doing next gen, buying studios and Game Pass, and it's all Xbox. Whereas Sony's just been quietly selling twice the amount of consoles and doing what it need, just doing that and releasing, decent exclusives. So maybe they thought they had to get some stuff out there and get some excitement about next gen. Also, with them not being at E3. I guess it could be easy for them not to be part of the conversation at all.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if we do hear anything around E3, although obviously what we actually hear and what you pricks tell me happened is completely different.
Well, exactly.
So
I mean,
we'll see.
Just like Apple not being at, say, like Mobile World Congress, which is like a big mobile phone show, or not being at CES, and yet every year they seem to dominate every other like show because they might do like an event or a rumor might, in inverted commas, leak out. If I was Sony and I wasn't at E3, I would probably schedule a state of play in that week. We're not E3, or maybe a leak, in inverted commas again, would drop. If they were being clever, and I'm sure they are, but I would, because Microsoft, I think they've got it sewn up. Like no one else is going to turn up. It's all them. They're talking about next gen console. If I was Sony, hang on. State of Play's happening tomorrow. Like, oh fuck,
Yeah,
it's not going to take a lot for them to disrupt Microsoft's party.
This is it, isn't it? Like, yeah, okay, it's bad that Sony aren't there, but actually they don't need to be to disrupt it.
They can be so much more agile as well.
Yeah,
they can make. I mean, especially now they've showed off their State of Play show, so they got that. They can put out whenever. They can have something in their back pocket if, depending on what Microsoft say. They can say, okay, go, let's press a button and this thing goes live, or we announce this, or this leaks,
Yeah.
It's an interesting way of doing it, but
I'd imagine that Sony also feel like they're in a pretty good position at the moment because, like you said, Matt, I mean, it's insane the disparity between the two platforms in terms of the buy-in and everything there is, and I think that's one of the reasons why this PS4 backwards compatibility is such a good thing for them because it is as we're transitioning more to everything being digital and everything. I've got a lot of games now that I've got on PS4 that are digital download ones or whatever, and the fact that I'll be able to play those on the next one, that is a big deal. I still feel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with pretty much twice the amount of owners of these digital games, that's going to be even harder to say, oh, Xbox anyone? It's like, well, there's 96 million people that have this, games on their account that they would want to keep them and keep playing them on the new machine. It's essential, so it's good they've done that.
See, and that's the other thing that I found really weird about some of the conversation that I've heard around this and around Xbox, because I mean, I listened to, do you know the Games Industry Biz podcast?
No, but I saw you tweet saying that this I feel like Glixel style hole. So is it that good? Because I miss Glixel and other things like that as well.
It's not as good as Glixel, but it is good. I mean, it's mostly focuses on industry news, which is something that kind of always interests me. And they had a whole discussion about this, about this being PS5 against like whatever Microsoft are coming up with, and how there's this like radically different like ideology like at play here. You've got like Sony that are still going with the idea of having like a disk drive, and they're still like sort of pushing a more sort of conventional approach, whereas Microsoft are going for like all digital and like maybe xCloud and stuff like that. And I just found it a bit of a weird conversation because from all these announcements that you get from Sony, I don't feel that what they're offering is so different to what Microsoft are planning either. In the sense of, with the PlayStation 5, sure, it will take physical media, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be bothered about digital downloads as well. It's not, I don't see that there's a huge difference really between them, aside from maybe like depending on how xCloud, sort of works out.
Well, but I think the major differences are xCloud and Microsoft's like gearing up for being able to play games on any platform, PC, tablet, phone, Xbox. Mm-hmm. So the console wasn't the main hub; it's actually their services. Sony hasn't really done that sort of stuff.
But where are they with that though? Because that's
we don't know. We'll see E3, but they've obviously quite bullish about it, and even after seeing Stadia stuff, they're still like, we're along the right path, we're excited to show what we're going to show, and obviously we're going to see that at E3. But Microsoft have that, and they've got the data centers, they've got the capability of doing that. Sony, it feels like they don't. Therefore, it feels like Sony is sticking to a much more conventional, here's a hardware box, you play your games on it. Also, things like Game Pass. I know PlayStation Now is out and doing really well, but the conversation isn't really there. But it's just the streaming stuff, I guess, because obviously PS5 is good at digital and disc stuff, and Microsoft will also get release a console which has a disc drive. They'll be stupid not to.
Mm-hmm. That's the other thing I find weird, because Microsoft also have a history of like doing this stuff and kind of fucking it up in terms of like seriously, like if you think about like the cross-platform stuff they've done. Would you say you're 100% happy, Sean, with the experience you've had of like Xbox on Windows or whatever?
No.
Exactly. It's like, and then before that there was games for Windows and all that kind of thing. There's always weird restrictions with Microsoft stuff that makes it that prevents it from becoming something that could be really good.
And it's always like stuff that like seems fixable, like the fact that, okay, so from my point of view, so the Windows store is a piece of shit. It's just really not great to navigate. You tell it to uninstall things and it goes okay, and then just doesn't. Stuff like that. It's just absolutely bizarre. And the fact that, as I say, I can't go on the store and be like, right, I'm a PC user who's using Game Pass. Show me what I can download to my PC and play as a result of that. There's no way to do that. Probably because they're too embarrassed to give you that option because they only show about 5 games, but it's not the point. It's just bizarre.
And this is the thing, because it always feels like Microsoft is often first with a lot of this stuff, but it's not very good. And it's like it needs, it takes like a while until it sort of, gets better. If you look at, Microsoft are kind of like that with many, many things across like their, their hardware and stuff like that. It's always been a bit like that. I don't know. Yeah. But no, I just
with the whole Xbox thing, it's been well documented on this show that I'm way more excited for what Xbox is potentially going to offer next gen versus PS5. Obviously, PS5 was amazing.
I don't understand that at all
because of all the things, because it's the unknown. Like, we know what PS5 is going to be. It's going to be an amazing console with like amazing exclusives. And like, there's nothing
why
like.
Would you be excited about that? About there being amazing, really new good games coming?
No, because we know it. Like, what's exciting for me is like, what are Microsoft going to do? They need to do something because they need to change it.
Well,
change
I don't
the narrative.
know. I think you could look at it the other way around as well. Like, actually, okay, so PlayStation's like won this generation or whatever, but actually Microsoft has really pulled it around quite a lot as we get towards the end. Like, I think there's probably, in terms of the way they've behaved, I would argue there's a lot more goodwill towards Microsoft now than there is towards Sony.
I think you're totally right. I think
so. Like, all of the things being equal,
like
all of the things being equal, the two of them putting out new consoles, I think more people would be inclined to go for Microsoft the next time around. So I don't know about that. I think if anything, it's up to Sony to pull something out of the bag.
But Sony don't need to. They literally just need like a more powerful PS4, which is what we said about 360. All the Xbox One needed to be was like a more powerful 360, and then they'd absolutely like screwed it,
True.
But I've said this before. Like, I'm just way more excited because we don't know about Microsoft. Well, as the studios, we haven't seen any of their stuff. What's it going to be like? How aggressive are they going to be on all the things they need to be to turn it around for next gen? So they're not Because right now, I mean, there's like 96 million or 96 plus million PS4 owners. Like, there's not many of them. Really, they're going to say, I'm going to switch. I don't think, because PS4 is a great console. I want more of that. I'll get a PS5. I mean, obviously, there's going to be loads of factors, price, capability, etc. It's going to be dependent on that. But
I suppose
Microsoft have got a lot of work to, because I think a lot of people were burnt by the Xbox One after loving the 360.
I suppose a big thing is, like, for whatever comes next for Microsoft, like, how instantly is Game Pass worth having on the new console, if you know what I mean? Because if, like, new console launches with 20 games... Are they, like, realistically, how many of those are going to be on Game Pass day one? Do you know what I mean?
See, that's the thing. If they launched with, like, all those new studios they've got, and they had, I don't know, let's say, 6 games or whatever, but they're all available on Game Pass from the off.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be pretty cool.
That'd be tremendous.
That is something that would make you think, that's something to think about.
And that's, like, as a PlayStation guy this generation, I don't have an Xbox. Like, Game Pass is the thing that I feel I'm missing out on.
Sean, you're not really missing out, honestly. It's like...
so for that to be relevant day one, like, and worth having on the new console would be pretty major, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting, because obviously, when a new console comes out, you buy all the launch... and so, basically, there's all those games you buy just because you want to see it on the new console. Yeah. We've all bought shitty, shitty games, but it's launch day, you want to see it. It doesn't matter how good or bad they are.
Cameo elements of power. Go on.
Well, that I'm thinking, like, Rise, that sort of stuff. Is it Loco Cycle? Whatever, it doesn't matter. But basically, Microsoft have made loads of really big moves in this generation to try and claw back some of the, they need goodwill, they need customers to come on board. Things like all Xbox exclusives day one and Game Pass. If that's the case, they also have to carry it on. They can't now say Xbox 2's out. No, sorry, that's all changed. Like, they obviously can't do that. But now they're in a position where people who may have bought 4 or 5 crummy games are now just going to get a free trial of Game Pass.
Yeah.
And surely they're going to lose loads of money, but I guess they also want people to be tied up with services.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm excited, because I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do. They've got to do a lot. PS4 and PS5 will be brilliant, and it'll be, but that. It doesn't excite me as much because I know what's going to happen. It's going to be a great console. What excites me is like what the hell Microsoft going to do, and that interests me.
It might even not be though. I mean, you never know what sort of Sony we're going to get. I mean, are we going to get like super hubris Sony, which ends up with like?
I think 9 months, 9 months ago, I would have said learned from hubris,
that, but
Yeah, I think 6 9 months ago I would have said, "Oh, we're going back into the shitty Sony." But I think with the crossplay stuff, I think with like changing PSN names, I think with like allowing like downloads on PS Now, it feels like they are learning a bit, and maybe they realise that Microsoft are doing all this stuff to get some goodwill, and they've made their own sort of concessions and changes. And I feel like maybe they're learning before generation starts, rather than starting a new generation all bullish and like being Twitter, basically. I feel like they've learned their mistakes, or they've learned stuff
next
now.
Next generation starts when we say it starts.
Exactly. I feel like they've learned their mistakes now. I could be totally wrong, but hopefully they've. And also, I think they might have said, look at Xbox, look at 360 and Xbox One. Like, we don't want to do that. And PS4 is very much this generation's 360. We just need PS5 to be a better PS4, and I think they're probably going to deliver that. Anyway.
We've been recording for over 50 minutes. Shall we read out the second news story?
It's been a while since James has been on. This is like it's giving our 3-hour show. That's really going to be livid.
This is another do you know what? It was a long one last week. We could get away with a short one this week. Let's just.
I've also got about 15 games that I've played. No,
for fuck's sake.
That's not bad.
Let's go. Okay, so second news story.
So the second news story was this Xbox One S All Digital edition that was announced.
Yep.
So there were rumours about this like a few days before, which turned out they were all correct. And so
really? Okay.
Yeah, the whole thing was...
it's been the packaging was like leaked. Was a 3D render of the packaging that had been leaked like a while, weeks previous.
Yeah, but also the pricing as well was correct and all that kind of stuff. So the form factor is identical to the S, but without the disc drive.
Yeah, you were right.
I knew they'd do that because it's all about price, isn't it? They're just doing it as cheaply as possible, and then it comes bundled with Sea of Thieves, Minecraft, and Forza Horizon 3, and not 4 for some reason.
What?
Yeah,
and
the third one. Yeah,
but I mean the other weird thing,
it's still brilliant, but it just it's bizarre.
But then also, it's going to cost £199 in the UK. So this is technically cheaper than the S. Like, if you go by the RRP or whatever it is now, I can't remember what they call it. but
MSRP.
MSRP, whatever. But
in
reality, no, it is RRP in the UK. Don't forget about it.
Okay. So, but in reality, you can buy like a 1 terabyte Xbox One S for £184 from Amazon. Like, you know, and also there's loads of like deals and bundles and stuff like you can going to get. And this doesn't come with any offers for like Game Pass or Xbox Live or whatever. And the weird thing about that is also Sea of Thieves. I assume it requires Xbox Live to play as well.
Yeah. So it's only online, yeah.
So as soon as you buy it, you've got to sign up. Otherwise, one of those games you can't play.
Brilliant.
I mean, it would be like every new console. They haven't like detailed the pack-ins, but I'd be very surprised if there isn't like a fortnight of live, and like 3 months of Game Pass. But
yeah, maybe,
who knows?
But I mean, at this moment, I don't know why anyone would buy this. Like, what's the point of this existing? Because if you can already buy like the equivalent thing with the disc drive, which is like it's a Blu-ray, it's like isn't it like a good Blu-ray drive as well? The Xbox
I was going to say because.
It's a 4K Blu-ray drive,
So
which is mysteriously the PS4 Pro doesn't do 4K Blu-rays. So like that is, although it's a very minor one, that is a selling point for me, for example. So,
but why would anyone buy this? I don't understand what the point of this is. Is this just to prime people for the idea of a digital console for the next round?
Could just be testing the waters, yeah.
Because otherwise, you're just basically buying something that's more expensive with less functionality. Yep. Like, why would you do that?
You just really hate discs.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
Yeah, this whole thing is bizarre. I really thought, okay, this is going to be like 100, 150 pound console, and try and like get in people like Sean, who we know new consoles are coming, but hey, for 100, 150 quid, I bet a lot of people who didn't buy an Xbox but they got a PS4, maybe they're missing out on Game Pass, maybe they want to play Crackdown, some other games. I think 100, 150 would maybe be enough. Like, yeah, I'll get one, and definitely to see what it's like,
Yeah.
But for 200 quid, and the fact that other bundles are cheaper, and yeah, sure, other bundles you don't get 3 games, but
But then those games, I think that they're all on Game Pass anyway, right?
Yeah, they're all on Game Pass anyway.
Which you're gonna sign up for. So
it's so strange. Like, I just thought this would be it'll be almost 100 quid isn't. I mean, I think almost like impulse buy. Like, I want to see what Xbox is about.
There was no way it was going to be that little. There was, 150 maybe, but 100 quid impossible at this stage.
I guess
I think we said the other week, but like, okay, so the cost of the Blu-ray drive probably isn't massive. So okay, you take that off, but also really, it should be even less still because they can guarantee that you're buying all your games through. Like, there's no way you're putting secondhand games in it. So really, they should be recouping some of the cash that way as well, and they should be able to build that into the savings, on the console itself. So
did the Xbox 360 ever go sub £100, like officially?
I don't think it did. No,
so I don't think it did either. I mean,
I thought the one without the hard drive did, but then at that point they sort of phased
the
out.
Arcade,
the arcade one,
which is actually useless by that point, wasn't it?
At that point, it was way too late.
Yeah. Because that was back when arcade live arcade games had to be like 200 meg or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, 250.
Some people have only got a 5 gig hard drive, so can't make it last.
Yeah. Like, the only thing I think about is like, okay, so maybe they don't want to make it too cheap because that will confuse people when in 2020 there's another all digital edition of the new Xbox, and that is going to be around the same price point, and they didn't want one that's like ridiculously cheap, or I don't know, they didn't want those people to buy the cheap one and then for like in a year's time they're like, hang on, what's this other one?
Oh, well, so like if the new one comes out and basically people are looking at it like, oh, well, there's one for £100 or one for £500, I'll have the £100 one, please.
If there's one for like 100 and one for £250, I'll buy the £100 one. Like, well, no, that's a different one. Yeah. Like, I can assume that's maybe a part of it, or they
but then if you don't want to confuse people, but if you don't want to confuse people, why bring this out at all?
Yeah,
I don't know who's going to buy this.
This is what I mean about like corporations, though, like just doing crazy things. Like you just think, there's all the focus testing that goes on. They got all the analysts and stuff like this to try and figure out, how they should place things there, and then things like this happen, and you're just thinking, how? I don't understand. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know who would buy this. It's a weird one. I mean, maybe they're like, oh, sod it. We've got so many S's in the warehouse. and we're going to basically kill Xbox as we know it in like 2020. We're basically like, here's a new generation, that old stuff's dead. But I don't know, it's weird. If it's on the 50, I think that would be a totally different conversation. Yeah, totally different. But
I'd have considered that easily, yeah.
Yeah, as it is, I don't know who's going to buy it. If anyone's listening to this and you are going to buy it, please let us know.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to buy this and why. I just don't understand.
Yeah, it feels like a missed opportunity, but who knows? Maybe they know a bigger, better plan.
So, in connection with this, the Game Pass Ultimate has been revealed as well. Right. So this is what we knew was going to happen. It's like the Xbox Live Gold and Game Pass like being bundled together.
Okay.
The pricing for this is weird because the only place I could find the UK pricing for this was the Metro, and I'm not entirely sure I believe them because they said it was $10.99 a month, and it's like $15 in the US. So I don't know if that's accurate or not, but you know, I don't know. Matt, would you go for this?
Well, no. So again, we haven't found UK pricing, but in the US, it basically costs the same as it would if you got them separately. If you bought both of them on like an annual pass, if you're in the US and you're buying like Game Pass and Xbox Live monthly, this will save you money. Mm-hmm. But that's the only way it saves you money. Otherwise, if you were buying both of them an annual pass, this is exactly the same. Yeah. I mean. I don't know. I'm sure for some people it's like, it's just easier getting these two in one rather than like resubbing for one and that resubs at a different time and get Xbox Live and then get Game Pass. But the thing with Game Pass is that there were so many offers. Like, 2 or 3 months ago, basically there's been offers pretty much it feels every 3 months. But 2 or 3 months ago, there's an offer if you buy like 1 month for £2, you get another month for free. That ended, and then when that ended, last week there was an offer whereby you get 3 months for like £1 again. It's like, and again, I've been a customer tons of times, but so these aren't for new customers only. I'm waiting for the moment when they suddenly say, "Oh, this next offer is actually new customers only," but they're still doing it. So over Christmas, you can get Game Pass for a year for £50, and like loads of people jumped on it. It was like an amazing bargain compared to the standard £8 a month. But actually, I think at this point, I'm going to be spending way less than £50, and I'm going to have it pretty much permanently with a combination of their like deals they do every 3 months to get people used to having the service.
It's like dumping, isn't it, really? They're basically doing dumping. Where it's they're just producing it as cheaply as possible, just to
they get as cheap as possible to get people used to it. So then when the offers stop, you're like, well, I've had it for so long, or maybe I've started loads of games and I want to continue them, and it's just part of my gaming habits now, so they're trying to get us used to the idea of Game Pass. But yeah, it's been so cheap for so long. But yeah,
gotta finish Super Lucky's Tale. So
I'm desperate to finish that. But yeah, I guess this does really is it. If you're paying month to month, it makes it cheaper, and if you're paying annually, it makes it easier than subbing for 2. But yeah, okay, weird one.
So that's that. Now the next, I've got another one. This is a bit long, but I want to read it anyway because I think it's interesting. I mean, Nintendo have just got approval to sell the Switch in China, which is quite interesting because, when I was there, I saw a couple of people playing them, actually. And actually, on the plane out there, I saw it was 6 other Switches what people were playing on the flight as I just went to the bathroom or whatever. I wasn't going around looking at people and stuff, I should have done that, but instead I was playing other stuff. But yes, so anyway, but I've seen a couple out in the wild in China, but now this is like, they're all obviously like grey imports, and this is in partnership with Tencent, so obviously, massive company. And this is, Nintendo's stock has increased by like 17%, sorry, it's gone up like massively. And they're going to launch the machine with like a version of like New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, which is weird. I don't know why they... I do know why they bundle that.
What's a specific Chinese version or what?
Probably, yeah. I can kind of understand why they've done that because there is like massive nostalgia there for like Mario Brothers. Like you see it. There's so much like copyright infringement going on. Like even the subway, trains, they have like Mario noises going off sometimes and stuff like that. They just steal everything.
When you say a version, are they likely to have changed anything from the one we've played? Like what could be different about it?
I don't know. I don't know. It may be also because this comes also. The other thing I wanted to talk about is that they've also just created some crazy new censorship laws for games. So this won't affect this, but because you remember a couple of weeks ago, I talked about this idea that there was these new rules for like approving games, And there was like a massive backlog of games, as everything has to go through. It's called the State Administration of Press and Publication. So anything that you want to release has to go through this, and then they have to like give the stamp of approval before it can come out. So games are now being approved again. However, like the government aren't accepting new submissions until they clear the backlog. So I was talking actually to a like Chinese independent developer when I was over there. And he was saying, like, the problem with, I mean, this is terrible for like indie developers, because you have to wait like a year or whatever before something gets even looked at for it to come out. And if you're like a massive company, that's fine. It doesn't matter, because you've got other, irons in the fire or whatever. But if you're like a smaller company, it's really awful. It's like really sort of difficult to deal with that. But so they've started approving them, but they've also got some interesting rules. So the first rule is that the number of games allowed onto the market are going to be capped annually. So they're not going to, it's not just like free for all. There'll be like a limit to how many games come out. And I mean, this is a bit like they do the same thing with Western film imports. So every year there is a quota of how many like Western releases are allowed to be like shown in Chinese cinemas. And the reason for this is because they're always trying to promote like domestic like film. Although this seems to be applying to all games, like even like domestic like Chinese games as well. So that's weird. And also, some genres are no longer going to be available either. So, like mahjong and poker games are being that you won't be able to get licenses to make those anymore. And the main reason for this is because of the connection with gambling. And
what's the gambling aspect of mahjong then? I haven't played a lot.
Well, you can. I mean, you can gamble when you play. Like you can. I mean, where I used to live, there used to be like there's loads of like mahjong parlors. I call it that, but they're not really. It was just like a room that is just like you open the door and just like smoke comes flooding out.
Right.
Because it's just like loads of old people sitting there just playing mahjong and gambling with each other.
Okay.
But I mean, because it turns out, I mean, there's a company called Nico Partners who did like research into this, and they found that of the 8,561 games approved in 2017. 37% of those were poker and mahjong titles, right, that were coming out.
Wow. Okay.
So the reason is because they're like cheap to make, and you can get like a lot of money through like microtransactions and all that kind of thing through it. It was like kind of big. So this only applies to new applicants though, so the old stuff isn't going to get wiped out. It's just that if you want to make a new poker game, you're out of luck. Like it's not going to happen.
Okay.
The other thing they've done is that games that are based on China's imperial history are not going to be approved either. And the main reason for this is because the government always worries that because they have these like there's like what they call like palace intrigue, like which is like talking about like the political systems and everything from the past, and all of the like there's games of this, there's films and TV shows and stuff, and all of these are kind of being stripped back now because there's always the government is just terrified that they're used to like parody the government or used as like political metaphors. So basically, China's imperial history, forget it. You're not touching that either. And then the final one, which is really odd, is that games like with blood are also going to be rejected. So you can't, and you see in the past, like with Mortal Kombat, they used to do stuff like change the color of the blood to green or whatever.
Yeah, green blood.
Like, yeah. You can't do that now because basically you can't show any fluids, is what it says.
Wow.
It's like no fluids are allowed to be shown, and also you can't show any corpses either, like
so
no dead bodies.
Wave Race would get banned, would it?
Yeah, very good, Matt.
No, it says fluid. So liquids are fine, fluids are not.
Yeah. So none of that either. So that's the other thing. And I mean, the way this works is quite interesting because to enforce this, they've got like this online game ethics committee, which was established last December. And what's really interesting about this, from my perspective, is it's under the guidance of the publicity department. Now, they call it a publicity department. It's actually the Xuanchuanbu, which is actually the propaganda department.
Right.
But they now call it the publicity department because it sounds nicer.
Yeah.
And so they're the ones that are looking at everything that comes out now and determining whether it's like nice or not, whether it can get through. And I mean, the weird thing about this is you've got like Tencent, which is like a massive company, really rich, very sort of powerful in like particularly in China, but they still are waiting to get a license to monetize PUBG. Like they can't get a license for it, which is kind of crazy. And so it's just weird. There's all these like massive restrictions being like sort of coming down, but then Nintendo obviously is still trying to get into this market because even if they only sell like a tiny percentage, it will still be a lot. Because of the size of the market is massive.
So what are like gacha games? Are they just not going to be a thing either?
No, well, that's the thing. There are a lot of like restrictions on those games, like in terms of they have to publicize like the drop rates and all that kind of thing, and because it's
so that sort of gambling with in-game currency is fine, but not like actual real-world currency. Or I guess it's not technically gambling.
It isn't anymore. It's not anymore.
Oh, okay.
Like as in before it was okay, but now they've decided it's not okay, and it's
so a bit of a big. So you're saying those like gacha games won't be they'll be banned from now or for when?
Yeah, they will not appear anymore. It's Wow. Basically anything with gambling is going to be kind of like part of this is it's part of what Xi Jinping the president calls it's like the core socialist values, and it's this idea of like creating like a pure society and all that kind of thing. But it's for particularly for developers in the country, it must be a nightmare because there are so many restrictions, there's so many things, and also the other thing with the way these organisations work is that they often will change things. It always seems like on a whim, like there'll be change, like 1 week will completely change how the system works or what is allowed and what is not allowed. It's difficult. It's very difficult, but then there still is the allure of the fact that you've got so many people and you can make a killing, like in terms of cash. So it's still worth people trying it, I guess. It's
but obviously in terms of like Tencent themselves not getting the license to like monetize it. Like I said, some games can have monetization over there. It's just when like the government provides the license, essentially.
Yeah, you can totally do that as long as it's not related to like gambling. Basically, is the thing. It's like that's what they're trying to eliminate. But then those games will still exist. It's just that there'll be the older ones, whereas newer ones won't appear. Is kind of the idea. It's
is it like some sort of like underground black market where? I mean, obviously this thing is yet to come into effect, I don't think. But like for these sort of games that are banned, is there like an underground market where like these things are still being produced and people are getting hold of them? It's just
I'm sure there will be. Yeah, because this is the thing. I mean, that was the other thing that happened this week that was really funny. Is like with like Game of Thrones came out obviously recently, and the first episode of that was like because Tencent Video had bought the rights to show that in China,
right?
And after it had come out, like loads of people watched the first episode, and then everyone was on message boards in China, like saying like a lot of the stuff doesn't make any sense that's going on in the episode, and it's basically because they just like censored tons of it.
Jesus.
So they're moving that stuff out, so it doesn't make any sense. I mean,
so
famously,
episode's like 24 minutes long.
Basically. Yeah, well, famously, the first ever episode of Game of Thrones that came out was cut by 20 minutes. Like there was like 20 minutes of footage was cut out, because of it. And it's this is the problem with the creativity side of things because you really can't do anything because there's so many restrictions. It's but then there is obviously, as I said, still the temptation to do it because you can really make a lot of money because the market's so massive. But people definitely will look for alternative ways to get access to this stuff. It just depends on whether the government can shut those sites down. I mean, like with the Game of Thrones thing, they people were sharing like links to torrents, like to download the uncensored versions. As soon as this became apparent. But they're serious about this though at the moment. It's because it's part of the political climate at the moment. It's
to what extent? I mean, this is a broader question, maybe not one for the podcast, but to what extent do people in government actually believe this is all worthwhile, and how much of it is just people towing the line for a quiet life? And do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. That's a difficult question because the answer is we don't really know.
Yeah.
I would say there's a lot of people that are doing this for a quiet life and stuff. There's very few. I'd say there's very few like true believers in like what's going on. But then you are linked to the fact that your promotion possibilities, all that kind of stuff is linked to this. There was this app that came out. There's this Xi Jinping app that came out like when was it? I think it was the end of last year, which is like a study thing where if you're working for like a state company over there, like like a state-owned company, you're required to read this app every day, and it's like you have to read like all the speeches, watch videos and stuff like that, and it records like if you've done it or not. And like this kind of stuff. And what's really funny about it is that then there was people who, because you get like scores as well for like how many articles you've read and everything. Yeah. But somebody had worked out a system to like automate the process, so you could like just leave it on. So these insane high scores were coming up from like people that had spent like all day. Because that's the other thing with China with all this stuff is they always have these systems, but people always find ways around them as well. There's famously, like with the Great Firewall, it's like this. People spend a lot of time just circumventing it and everything. It's the same with this kind of stuff as well. But the guy I was talking to the other week, he was talking about he thinks it's very likely that there'll be like a proper like Chinese version of Steam will come soon in terms of like it will be cut off from the rest of the Steam community, and it will just be Steam China. Will probably what will happen, because then they can control things easier. It's So there you go.
Sounds horrendous over there.
Yeah, it does.
It's Yeah, well, this is why I always get worried, especially with companies like Tencent and stuff, because it's like they are part of this system and are quite happy to work within it as well. And it's like that's why I worry about them getting involved with stuff over here as well, because it's like they can bring it. Okay, anyway, moving on. So Nintendo are deleting what it believes are what they call inappropriate, like sort of content from the Smash Brothers Ultimate Stage Builder. So they released the Stage Creator. I haven't tried it. Is it a free download? Does anyone know?
It came as like free Smash Brothers 3.0, I think. Yeah, so it's out.
I haven't looked at it yet, but I'll have to give that a go. But anyway, so basically, it's created the things that you'd imagine it would, such as dick stages. There's like swastikas, the whole usual sort of stuff. But then also, people have been titling stages with stuff like calling it things like trans rights and stuff, and these have also been deleted as well. And so. Sake. Nintendo have then explained that removing these is because they were considered like what they say, in inverted commas, like a political statement. Although this seems to be like really scattershot because some of them like are being shut down, some of them are not, and accounts that get targeted get banned for like 9 hours and then they're back on again. But it's just a mess because it seems that Nintendo doesn't seem to know what its policies are on this. It's just, it's just a big mess, basically. I mean, this is probably why they always decide, like, they don't really go in for this, like, sort of sharing stuff that much because it's a minefield for them of not knowing, where they stand on anything. It's,
I can see them like, we don't do this stuff, let's do it. Oh, no, what's this? And then they'd, but you're totally right. They clearly don't have their own house in order to actually understand what their own policies are, so that when this happened, they'd say, "Oh, we'll ban that, or don't ban that." And I can understand, the dicks and the swastikas getting banned. Yeah, it's the rest of it. They're just like, what is their stance on this? Because then there are other things which are also bad, but they're still there. So it's I don't know.
Yeah, so that was that. I mean, that's not great.
It's pretty cool. You can build your own stages, though. I mean, if I was a Smash Brothers fan, that sounds awesome.
I need to try that because my son will definitely be well up for that. He has a bit of Smash Brothers. Okay, final bit of news is that, I mean, I had to put this in here because it's funny. I mean, it's just, so Capcom have got their own mini console now. And
I mean, you say mini.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's £200 and it's shaped like the Capcom logo. And it's got 16 games from the 90s and it looks awful. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it looks horrendous. Yeah. Like, you look at that thing.
So it looks like the top of an arcade cabinet.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing. It's trying to replicate sort of like fighting sticks and like the top.
Well, yeah, it's got
it just is
with a massive Capcom logo.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, it's stupid. Well, what I don't get is like, I mean, and I'm not like really into arcade fighters, and maybe this is an issue, but like the fact that none of the buttons are different colours, like, is that not an issue, or does not matter because your fingers where it needs to be?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking down at them, you've already lost. I think is the.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I think people were kicking off that do you know how gates work on arcade sticks? It's basically a bit of plastic that sits around the stick at the base, so some people prefer like square gates or whatever. So this has got octagonal ones, which apparently is bad for reasons I don't understand. I mean, it's the fucking size of it. Obviously, this will be hacked within seconds of it coming out, but it's fucking massive, and it's just got 16 arcade games on it.
Yeah. Like, and they're only like CPS1 and CPS2 games, so it's like not. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying the physical size of it should denote how much storage it's got on it.
I mean, 74 centimeters in length. That is a big boy.
But it does just seem mad that, like, oh yeah, so it's this absolutely fucking huge thing that'll dominate your fucking dining table. But also, it's only got 16 old games on it. I mean, it's a pretty good list as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's got Super Puzzle Fighter 2, which is wicked. Armored Warriors is a banger. Cyberbots Full Metal Madness. But yeah, I mean, obviously, people are just buying this to hack it, aren't they? Let's face it.
You know what it looks like? It looks like a cake.
It does. It looks like a novelty birthday cake.
Yeah, it does look like that. Like somebody's like, I'm really into Capcom. I'll get a Capcom cake, and that's what it looks like. It's.
I would love to see one in real life. I just want, and you're right. It'll be hacked within seconds, and then put like, actually, this is great because. I'm thinking I saw maybe it was Andy actually saw on Twitter saying like, maybe someone's also going to change the keys. So it doesn't have octagonal, and then like, here's but it's still a £200 stick. Like, I'm sure there's probably better ones out there for £200.
I don't know. I mean, it's all Sanwa parts, and as far as I'm aware, they are like the best. And I'm pretty sure, when Street Fighter 4 came out, and this is the last time I played a fighting game, when there was the normal fight stick you could get for it, and then there was like the fucking tournament edition one, and I'm sure that was like well over £100 at least. If this is £200 and it's got 2 like full sticks and with buttons and Sanwa parts, I suppose that's value for money. But I mean, who'd have that in their house?
But I mean, for student houses, they're into fighting games.
True,
this is like
and
a
if there's like three or four of you, and you like split it between you.
I've watched it, and I've just watched it now. But I think if you're like vaguely into if like a student house, you're all gamers. You're like, oh fuck it, we'll get it. So we'll pay like £50 each, and we'll get this like massive thing for the front room.
I suppose the other question is though, like, how do you? So what? Do you both just like sit next to each other on the sofa with this on your knees?
Yeah, with a cushion beneath it. Yeah,
bit cozy. But yeah,
hey, it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Awful,
I might request a review copy. It comes out October 25th, anyway. So
great, can't wait.
Yeah,
and that's it. That's the end of the news.
That is the end of the news. I mean, James, do you want to crack on and do what you've been playing? Because I know mine, and there's a bit of crossover between me and Matt. So if you want to do yours first, and
you've been playing Donkey Kong 64, haven't you, James?
Oh yeah. I've been playing all of the hits. But yeah, no, I've not played that. I mean, most of the stuff I've played while I've been away it's just all been Switch stuff. And I mean, some of it's been better than others. But I mean, I played Yoshi's Crafted World, which I heard you talking about last week, and I mean, I finished it, but I haven't collected everything. And I mean, it's hard to know what to say about this beyond the usual stuff about how beautiful the game is and like relaxing and all that kind of thing. Yeah. But I mean, the only problem with it, I feel, is it does feel like a bit of a collectathon. Which is, I mean, the thing that I really loved about Woolly World was there was a lot of sort of like secrets and stuff like that, and sort of a lot of sort of like cool puzzles and stuff that you could kind of work out that made it sort of a bit unique. This feels more like you are just collecting stuff, and although for some reason I'm still enjoying doing it though, and I think I might even go back and try and clear it like 100%, like, because it is relaxing to like just go through and like try and get all the stuff, but it just starts to get ridiculous. Like when you get to certain places when there's this guy that keeps on like requesting like specific items, and it's like you've got something from one of the stages, you go back to him and he's like, oh, I'd like this now, and he's like, oh, I'd like this now, and it's just like, come on, man, it's like you don't need all of these, surely, it's ridiculous. Go and get them yourself. But it's that's kind of annoying. But I mean, on balance, I'd say that I enjoy playing this more than I did New Super Mario Bros. U. Although that's clearly the superior game, I think maybe because I played that before, this felt like a bit newer and a bit more sort of interesting. But I thought it was interesting what you were talking about last week with this idea of because there was this idea that it was supposed to be able to rotate at any time. Was that really a thing from the beginning that they were?
I've no idea. First, I'd heard about it. But maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just like a misleading trailer or something where it was like, aha, look, you'll play the reverse as well, and they sort of made it look as if you can do that anytime. I don't know.
But I mean, I do think it's a very nice game. Is the thing. I mean, the children bounced off it quite quickly, and I've really found that they're not really massively into like 2D platformers at all.
Oh, really?
They really prefer 3D ones, and I think. I think that's largely because 3D ones are significantly easier. I mean, 2D games are much more difficult, and and it doesn't match Yoshi's Island at all, like not by a long shot.
Yeah.
But I still think it's worth playing. It's still a fun, nice game. It's just not
so
maybe amazing.
So this doesn't do a thing whereby the first run through to the end is relatively easy, but there are things afterwards which make it much more difficult. It
doesn't get more difficult. I don't think really. It's really just the collecting is the thing, and maybe I've only done the collecting for about 3 or 4 of like the worlds in it. I mean, it was actually quite a lot longer than I was expecting it was going to be. I mean, to the point where I was getting close to the end, and I was kind of feeling like this must be it now, surely. But then like another area opened up, which is nice. It was nice that there was a lot of content there, but I mean, I tried playing a bit of it with my son, and it just doesn't go very well because it's just frustrating. It's really difficult to play like something like this with him because it's not that it's difficult or anything, but it's like there's certain things that you need to do which are quite precise, particularly if you're trying to like collect everything, and it just doesn't work with kids. It's not so good.
Yeah,
but good. I mean, I still kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was it's a good release.
You kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah,
10 out of 10.
Well, well, it's a 7 out of 10 game. I think is the thing. But
that sounds good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'll be honest. I'm sort of, from what I've played, which is not a massive amount. I am sort of glad I got it physically because I do think it's getting traded in when I'm done with it. I don't
every
think
Nintendo game you should get physically.
Well, yeah, there is that because they hold
the resale value is insane.
Yeah. But usually they're good enough that it's like, no, I want to keep this forever and ever. But actually, in this case, I think I'm probably going to bin it off when I'm done with it.
See, I wanted to do that with Kirby, but I can't because, I mean, despite what I just said about 2D games, my son loves that game, and he frequently goes back to it, and it's like, I just want to get rid of this because it's nice, but it's not worth keeping. But he won't.
It's probably still worth 37 quid in CEX as well.
Probably, yeah. It's probably worth more than that now because it turns out they didn't print many of them. You get that kind of thing as well. But, I mean, one of the other major games that I played... actually, no, I'm going to get another one out of the way quickly first, which was Wargroove. Because I talked about this before I went away, and I finished it on the plane, and I ended up kind of really disliking it by the end. Mostly because the final levels, in particular, felt like a real grind with missions. Like, they only really had, one solution all the time, and it took a while to figure out what that was, and I hate that in games generally. This, especially in strategy games, I hate that. Like this idea that there's only one way, real way of sort of getting through. I want to be able to think, in different ways to approach stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's a shame because I mean, my initial feelings of this game were very good, but by the end, I really didn't care for it at all. I mean, I still want another Advance Wars, and it's just playing this makes you appreciate how insane it is how right they got everything with the original one of those. It was so good. The Game Boy version, the Game Boy Advance version.
So the campaigns of the Advance War games, they had campaigns, I presume, right?
Yeah.
And so were they more about you can finish a level in a variety of different ways depending on the way you play it?
It was that, and it was also just the unit balancing was really, really good. Like every unit in that felt like it had a real purpose, whereas in this, I didn't feel that so much. I found myself falling back on certain units I was using in every mission, and I just didn't enjoy it so much. It's a shame because I like these games a lot, but that wasn't so good. And okay, the major thing that I've been playing was Katana Zero.
Oh yeah. Okay.
This I finished on the plane when I was coming back, and I loved every moment of this. It was
so I played this at Rezzed and then completely forgot to put it on the list before we did the live show. But yeah, it's I mean, I only did a couple of levels, but yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I mean, it wasn't quite what I was expecting, actually. I mean, there was a lot more dialogue and world building in it than I thought there was going to be.
And quite an interesting dialogue system as well, with the whole, being able to just cut people short and be a dick.
Yes. Although, the only thing with that, though, is that that's a kind of an illusion of choice, though.
Okay.
It's there's you have the choice. You can cut people short when you're talking to them, or you can wait for there to be dialogue options, and that does change things sometimes, but not often. You always sort of seem to go to the same sort of destination.
Right.
But then also that's played on later as being a thing because it's part of the mechanics of the game actually, which it all makes total sense. And I mean, how can I put this? Yeah, I mean, do I need to describe what it is? I mean, it's it's a 2D ninja game, really, but there's no focus on stealth at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole purpose is to get through each area by finding the most efficient route possible. And I realise that's contradicting what I've just said about Wargroove, where it's there's only one way through. With this, it is kind of like that in the sense that there is a more efficient route to go through, but you can mix things up again a bit as you go through. And I mean, your character, you can slow down time so you can deflect bullets. But you also this. Also, I mean, the other thing about the slowing time is it gives you this chance to make decisions as well, because everything happens really quickly, and you can be dead within seconds. And this works kind of well. But but the ability to slow down the time is really limited, and it has this same sort of mechanic as Prince of Persia. I mean, you probably saw this, Sean, yeah, where it's like if you fail, your character says something like, it won't work that way, and then the level gets rewound.
You playing it is him like plotting how to do it, isn't it? In theory, and then but then obviously, so all your failed runs never actually happened, and then the successful one is the one he actually he's thought it through properly and he's done it.
It's a bit more than that, actually.
Okay.
Which you'd see if you play, because that's the thing. Because by the end, all of that makes total sense by the end, but it does go very sort of Metal Gear Solid 2 in places, right? Where it becomes a bit like that, but it makes a lot more sense. And you see, I love the way that you did have to approach each level as if it was a puzzle.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Remember Ape Out, where it was like. With Ape Out, I always felt like I was kind of having to improvise to get through these levels. Whereas with this, it feels like there are numerous options to get through, but there's also a kind of a preferred path as well that you can use to get through each one. And it felt incredible. I mean, it's more like Hotline Miami in that way, in the sense that
I didn't want to say it because it seems like a. I don't know, because that was Devolver's major hit, and it was a violent game, and it was 2D. But it is a very close comparison in ways that people don't get the feel of it, and the whole especially when you get into the grabbing objects and chucking them at people and stuff. That slight lean towards sort of being resourceful as you are sprinting around and killing people. It does really feel very Hotline Miami. Yeah.
Yeah, especially grabbing objects, and it's also choosing when to use them, and when it's maybe use it on that guy so that you can get another person more easily and stuff like that. Yeah. There is that element of strategy, and I found it very satisfying to pull off a section perfectly. Mm-hmm. And the best thing about it is that throughout the whole thing, each of the areas are really perfectly measured in length. I never felt frustrated at having to try again. Even when I got close to the end of a bit and then died or whatever, it takes you back and you're back to where you were 30 seconds later or whatever. So it never felt...
If you managed to go for a perfect run, how long would that take? I presume it varies, but
again, maybe 30 seconds or so. It's
maybe wow. Okay,
30 seconds to a minute or so. It's it's if you do it perfectly, you could probably do each of them in maybe about a minute or so. It's but the thing is that you fail often, because it is difficult, in places. But it never feels unfair either, because there is always that feeling of I know what I should have done there, and I just didn't execute it properly. And I mean, there's one particular bit that I really loved, towards the end, where you there's this section where there's 3 people in a room below you, and you can smash through the ceilings, and then I figured out you slow down time, throw a knife at one of them that's far away, and then use your katana to slice off the heads of some other ones so you can just get through, and it just looks really cool as you're doing it, because it's all in slow motion. It's and you pull it off and you feel great. It's
you also get a video, don't you? A replay of your successful run, which apparently looks awesome.
Yeah, they do that as well, which is kind of nice. And I mean, the world is kind of the large sort of cliche kind of thing, and the character interactions. I mean, the character interactions are often kind of unpleasant, but it works, I think, in this context. Mostly, I mean, this isn't coming out in Australia and New Zealand as far as I'm aware.
Really?
Probably, probably because of it didn't pass the rating system.
Jesus.
Probably, it's probably because of the drugs, and there's also torture and stuff like that, and everything in there. But and I mean, as I said, you have the dialogue choices, but there's kind of an illusion of choice there, and which is then played up later. I mean, it also feels like there's a wider story that's going to be told here, and that I'm hoping that there's going to be further releases of this. That's going to get expanded upon, because I found it very interesting by the end, and I'm not sure if this is kind of on my Game of the Year list, but it's very close to that level, because I found it incredibly satisfying to play, particularly towards the end when you go up at the end against these sort of bosses where it really takes quite a long time to figure out what the rhythm is, and to figure out what the best way to do it. But then that you are going to crack it at some point. It's just getting the right rundown. It's but it really is excellent. I mean, I would really recommend it. It's it's really fantastic.
Cool.
I'm glad you liked it, because I've actually hadn't heard as much about this game as I thought it would do. In the lead up to it. I feel like everyone's quite interested and excited on the way up, and then when it came out, it's out now, and just haven't really heard much at all about it. So I'm glad you like it, and it makes me want to play it actually.
Yeah, definitely. I really would recommend it. It's excellent. It's also, I mean, I saw some people saying it's about sort of 4 or 5 hours long. I think it's a bit longer than that. I think maybe it probably took me about 6 or 7 hours, I think.
Okay.
But it still felt, I didn't want to put it down. Like, there was always this thing of like, you can, just try again. If I failed, just try again. And it's just...
Is there any replayability? Is there a way, would you want to go back, or is there not?
There is, but there's things which are like story-based, which can like end games and stuff like that, which, I mean, yeah, I don't want to say because it will ruin the experience. So, but yeah, it's really, really worth playing. I really much enjoyed it.
Cool.
Excellent. The only other things I played Phoenix Wright because I'm an idiot. And I bought this on the Switch mostly because I just love the series. And I mean, this is the third time I think I've played through the original trilogy. And I just wanted it on the Switch because I just wanted... I don't know, I find the characters...
James, I'm about to buy Dragon's Dogma for the 4th time. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I mean, I think it's just because I find the characters in this series to be some of the most entertaining in video games, and I just like spending time with them. It's just... there's like the new art style, which I think was ported from like the iOS version.
Okay.
And it's fine. I mean, there's people moaning about it, saying they prefer like the pixel art style, because this has all been like redrawn, and I don't really care, to be honest. I think it looks fine, and the music's all there. The characters haven't changed, and I'm near the end of the first game, and which is probably still the best in the series. But I just still love it, and it's just I find it's a really nice game to play before going to bed, because it's like reading like an old favourite book or whatever. It's just it's great. It's and I was also at the stage with this where it's like I can remember who's done it or whatever with this, but I don't remember all of the steps of how to get to the conclusion. So it still is entertaining in that respect as well. It's like to try and figure stuff out.
How much is the Switch version?
I think it is £30.
Oh, man.
How much?
No, it's about 30, I think.
30, yeah, I think, yeah.
And, I mean, I used some gold coins to bring the price down a bit, but,
I get you.
I mean, I'm really hoping that they also release, like, the other 3 that have come out since on Switch as well, because I'd like to play those, because some of them I played, some of them I hadn't. I mean, there's some of them I own, but I haven't played them because they were on like 3DS and stuff, and I don't want to play on that anymore. It's it'd be nice if they came out on that, but because like stuff like Apollo Justice got re-released recently. Well, Matt knows all about that. It came out on like iOS, got redrawn and everything. So hopefully,
what's this game like playing without touch?
You can play it with touch.
Oh, can you? Okay.
Yeah, because
there are many Switch games. Yeah, but there are many Switch games that actually rely on that because of the whole dock situation.
I mean, the original was for the GBA, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that didn't have touch either. I mean, you can play. I mean, I still usually play with buttons anyway because it's quicker. I mean, that's one of the little innovations they put into it, which I really do appreciate. Though, is that you can skip text much more quickly in blocks, and so it's like you just press B and then it will skip. It will just immediately display that block of text, then you can just read it quickly and then go to the next one. Before, it used to do the whole thing where it would read it out as it was going through, which significantly increases the amount of time it takes to play through. So that was good.
Yeah.
And
cool.
So there's that. What else did I have? Sorry, this is the last thing, kind of. I played a bunch of Megadrive Classic games on the flight because I was bored, and I know, because I also figured out my favourite settings for it, because the emulator can upscale the graphics, which initially look really bad.
Yeah.
But then, I wouldn't recommend this usually with an emulator because I think it looks bad, but you can add scan lines, and for some reason, it looks good with this. And so, I'm loads of people no doubt tell me I'm completely wrong, but I thought it looked okay. So I played through Streets of Rage, Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle, and Streets of Rage 2. And, I mean, just some... obviously quick observations. Streets of Rage I still think now has a slightly better soundtrack than the sequel, but the gameplay is obviously worse. But Alex Kidd is a terrible game, and it's worse. It's absolutely worse in every aspect than Miracle World on the Master System. It's just absolute garbage. Absolutely.
So this was a sequel, was it?
Yeah, because it's kind of a remake though of Miracle World, but it's got the same music and all that kind of thing. But it's dreadful. It's got terrible floaty controls. It's got awful collision detection. It's just a terrible game. It's just really bad, and it's just garbage. And the thing is looking through the Mega Drive collection, there's a lot of games on there which are really good games, but a lot of them have aged really badly, and in some ways I feel they've aged worse than like the games that are on the NES Online, on the the games that are on that, because games like Kid Icarus and games like Super Mario Bros. 3, they still play really well, and the 8-bit art style, there's still kind of a charm to that. Whereas in a lot of these 16-bit ones, they're not great. They really have aged badly. Not good.
But it must be awesome having it on Switch,
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to it's something to just break out from time to time and think, I'm going to sit and play some Megadrive games, which is good.
How many games are on it? So 30 odd.
Yeah, it's about 30, but no Sonic 3 or Sonic and Knuckles. They're missing because they always are, which is kind of a shame. But the rest are all there. And the only other thing I've done is I've played Labo VR as well.
Oh, yeah. How was it?
Which,
I'm
not sure how I feel about this so far, because as I was saying to you before, like the 720p screen doesn't help.
Yeah.
And I think I've been spoiled by PSVR in terms of visual quality, and that's not even that great. But this is... it's not. The visual quality isn't so good, but the construction stuff is still a lot of fun, and my son is absolutely loving it. Like, he spent a lot of time just like playing around with it and doing some of the levels and stuff. And I built the camera so far, which is okay, but I need to build the blaster. It's just the trouble is it's the same as with the other Labo stuff, which is that there are a lot of games that are like very sort of short, and they're essentially kind of like tech demos, and it doesn't feel like there's enough there yet, to really feel like this is kind of worth it. But maybe that's going to change after I build the blaster. Maybe that's the thing that's missing.
When are they? Do we know when the functionality is being added to Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild?
Isn't it? I think it's the end of this month.
I thought it was like 23rd of April, which is tomorrow as we record, or yesterday as you're listening to us, I think. Let me check. But so I asked Dan last week about this, but like, how VR is it, or is it more like a 3D thing? Like, what's the best experience you've had on it so far?
There's a platforming kind of game in there, which it's not Astrobot, but it is quite good, I think. In terms of, I wouldn't say that it's just like 3D. It is like, it does feel more like proper VR, but there is also the fact that, it tells you don't like move around while you're using this. It's like you're supposed to sit there and just sit there and just like move your head around or whatever. But it's okay. It's just the visual quality is just how you get that thing with PSVR, how I find I really have to sort of position that correctly so that it doesn't like blur.
Yeah, definitely.
You get the same thing with this, but the problem with this is because it's not fixed to your head.
It doesn't sit still. Much more,
so you have to like hold it in place, and which is a bit uncomfortable. They need to build a stand. You need this to be a stand like the Virtual Boy had, so you can stare into it or something or whatever. But it's a nice idea, but just need to do some more building, I guess.
Fair dues.
So the update apparently is one says basically it's 25th, 26th is when the update is rolling out. Okay. So this week.
Okay,
cool.
So I'm really excited to hear about that, because I don't own either of those games. Of course I don't, but I can't wait to hear what Zelda is like, because obviously Zelda the whole game is VR, whereas Mario at certain levels isn't, or certain.
Yeah, and I don't think Zelda's going to work, but I think if it's enough to just go for a walk around Hyrule for a bit, I'm going to have a go. Right, is that it, James?
That is it. Yeah, cool. There's pretty much nothing else really.
I have been playing PlayStation Plus freebie The Surge. It's been out for ages, I think. So this is the second game. I forget the developer's name. I think it's the same people who made Lords of the Fallen, which was...
like the Dark Souls-like game.
Yeah, sort of more or less written off as a bit of a, it was the first sort of... Like, it came out on, what is now current gen hardware before any Dark Souls games managed to, and it was a bit like, if you really jones in for a new Dark Souls, then maybe give it a go, but it's not actually that great. This, however, is pretty interesting, I thought. So it is very Dark Souls in terms of the way it plays, but it's sci-fi, so it's set sort of near future, and you're sort of going around and you're killing people who I think people who are actually dead, but they're wearing these sentient power suits or something. I don't know, I didn't quite fully understand it. But yeah, and it's Dark Souls. You going around sort of doing melee attacks on people, and it's really hard, and there are big bosses that can kill you in one hit, and if you every time you die you go back to a respawn point and you've dropped everything and you have to get back to where you died to get your stuff back, etc., etc. All that. where it is interesting is, I mean, so the setting is cool because, like, yeah, it's like the game's pretty gruesome, but it's modern day. It's all, like I say, it's all sort of sciencey stuff, and it's like, you know, it's like sunny and it's daylight, and it's like not like a particularly like oppressive atmosphere like you tend to get with, you know, with these sorts of games. And like it's got this really cool combat system where when you're attacking someone, so you lock onto them, but then you can target specific body parts, and so you can either like you can aim for like an unarmored body part, which will deal more damage, or if you're trying to build like a certain set of gear and you see like an enemy's got like an arm part that you need or whatever, like you can target that, and then if you target that, do a certain amount of damage, build up a meter, do like a cool finishing move that has a percentage chance to take that limb off. You get the part, and then you can equip it.
Use it for upgrades.
Yeah, which is a really cool system and pretty interesting, I thought. And that, you know, you have this like, well, if you want an easy life, you can just go for the unarmored parts, but actually, if you want to try and get a leg up and get better gear, you can start being strategic about it. Right, well, I'll take his left arm, his leg, his, you know, whatever. It's pretty good, and the combat like feels fine. It's like really responsive and nice, like any, you know, feels like you played a Dark Souls game, you know what it feels like. It's tonally, it's a bit weird in that. So the way it starts out is like they do this thing that's a bit crass in that you start off, you're on this like train, and you're obviously, you know, it's like there's like adverts everywhere for this science company, I forget what they're called, but it's like, oh, you've come to work for us, you've made a great decision, we're amazing, and we're like doing this project that's going to end global warming, and
we're definitely not bad. We're definitely not bad guys.
Yeah, totally.
We're not evil.
We're totally squeaky clean and brilliant. And it's like you're viewing this guy from behind, right? And you can just see like the back of like a train, or what looks like the back of a train seat. And then when the train comes to a stop, it's like press, you know, left stick to move. Ah ha ha! He's in a wheelchair. Surprise! Like, I just hate it when it's a bit like, we got you. It's like it's this shocking reveal. But yeah, so the guy's a wheelchair user, and he's been enticed to come and work for this company because you get this like power suit that would enable him to walk, and but it's really weird. You arrive at this train station and there's all like guards everywhere, which is obviously meant to be sinister because there's like sort of armed guards who don't really want to talk to you, and they're like, fucking go that way, go and get yourself enrolled or whatever. And then you choose, like, you go through some like a few more areas, but it's all weirdly like dead. There's like not many people around, which just sort of feels wrong. This is you're still in the sort of, you know, you're still under this illusion that this is like a nice place to go and work and stuff, but it just feels a bit desolate. And then and then you pick, there's like two like power suits that you can have. There's like the Rhino, and then I think it's like the Lynx. I went for the Lynx, which is obviously the sort of quicker and more agile one, but less powerful. And then it shows this cutscene where he's like, so he's lying on this table, and it's like, okay, like scanning you for like sizing you up for installing this like robot like exoskeleton on you. And then it, you know, and it's like, right, ready to begin operation, and it says like, you know, anesthetic administered, and it hasn't. Like the guy's awake, and he starts like screaming and panicking, but he's like locked down. So like, and it's really horrific, and it's like, and all of a sudden he's like getting like drilled everywhere and getting all these robot parts fitted to him, and he's just like screaming, and then he like passes out, and you're like, oh my god, so that's, you know, that's like the shocking reveal. This is actually sort of a horror game. And then something goes wrong with his power suit, like it's got like a defective power core or something. So he just gets thrown in a junkyard. Like he's still alive. He just sort of passed out. So you start the game proper in this, like you've just been scrapped basically, and you're like trying to fight your way out. So, you know, the whole point is like, this is horrible. What's happened to this guy? Like he should be absolutely horrified. He's basically been tortured and then left for dead. But he just seems fine with it. Like he's like when you,
I love that.
Yeah, like when you eventually like contact someone from the company, he's like, oh, you know, I've just been like dragged here, and like, you know, he seems sort of mildly annoyed at first. He's like, oh, I don't understand what's going on. And they go, oh, you've got a defective power core. Like you'll need to fix that. And he's like, oh, well, it doesn't seem defective. This is great. I can run around and like I'm like fully mobile. And you're like, you've just been tortured. Like, you should be fucking furious. Like, okay, you got the use of your legs back. That is a pretty big deal. But the way in which it happened was definitely not right, and they did leave you for dead afterwards. But he just seems totally cool with it. And
that's so disappointing because you think, well, there's literally no emotion here at all.
Yeah.
If like this character isn't bothered, like,
yeah, exactly.
How could I ever be bothered about this situation myself?
Yeah, and at no point is he like, do you realise what just fucking happened to me? It was horrific. Is this like a known issue? Like, none of that. Like, it just totally. So I don't know. It's like they couldn't really decide whether or not they were going to lean into it being a horror game, I guess, or having horror elements. It like, I don't know. So I found that really weird. But yeah, like overall, pretty enjoyable and like an actual interesting new take on that sort of game.
Do you think you're going to keep playing it?
I mean, probably not, because as discussed, like, around Sekiro and stuff, I just haven't really got any particular appetite for a really hard game at the moment. I got like a couple of bosses in, and then like a new boss just like killed me in one hit, and I thought, do you know what? I think I'm all right. And then it crashed. That was it. I died and then it crashed, and I thought, no, I'm okay.
The real surge starts now.
yeah.
There's a power surge.
So, yeah, like definitely check it out. Like, if you, everyone's got it on PlayStation Plus. So well worth a look. Just some like tonal weirdness going on, which sort of spoiled it. What else? Destiny 2. Who wants to hear about Destiny 2? Everyone.
Let's go.
Literally everyone. So I got invited. I got a tweet from Adam, one of our listeners, who was like, basically like, look, we're raiding tonight, but we're missing someone. Do you want to join us? And it's like the first time where I've had a tweet like that, and I was actually free. And I've, as discussed before, I've put so much time into Destiny 2. I've never done any of the raids on it. So I was like, yeah, fuck it, why not? So we didn't do like the full raid. So we did the Last Wish, which was the raid that came out with Forsaken. So it's the one that's set in the Dreaming City.
Okay.
And it was fucking great. It was so good. Like, it really helps. Like, everyone, honestly, I forgot all your real names. But everyone who I was playing with, they were all like super supportive and helpful. Because it makes such a difference. Because, I mean, do I need to explain how the raids work in Destiny? I guess basically really difficult, quite long like missions with like, I guess, some story stuff, but not really. But with like these really sort of intense like puzzles, which involve like shitloads of coordination and teamwork and communication and all the rest of it, whilst also like, everyone has to be really good at shooting stuff. And you just forget that like this is like Destiny's like fully like unique thing. Like, as good as the shooting is and the loot and everything, like, like action RPG shooters existed before Destiny. Like, we already had Borderlands and stuff. But you forget that like the raids are really what set it apart. There's just nothing else like it. Like, I won't bore you with like the mechanics of the bits we did, but it's just such a great feeling when you go from like, you'll do like a couple of runs at a certain section and you just sort of fuck it up. But then by the time you do it, it's like you're just this incredible, like, well-oiled machine. Like, everyone's just calling things out and everyone's reacting and doing things at the right time. And it's such a good feeling. Like, yeah, I had a proper good time doing it. So, like, we need to definitely try and do Leviathan together.
So how do you think this, from what the sections you played, how does it compare to things like Vault of Glass and the Crota raid and stuff?
It's easily like up there. Like, it's probably the most fun I've had doing a raid. Possibly because like we were all like well over leveled doing it. That certainly helped. So like
less stress, I guess.
Yeah, so like the fights were not easy. Like, if you were not paying attention, it was still, you could get yourself killed. But it felt like, the fighting was there and it was good fun, but it was more about, like, it allowed you, the fact that it wasn't too difficult allowed you space to think about the puzzles and the timing and the communication and stuff. Which, yeah, it was fucking proper good fun. Really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, we need to get our shit together and do a raid stream, because that'll be good fun.
I'm ready. I'll
cool.
do that.
Wicked. What else? I've been playing Hell is Other Demons on the Switch because it looked cool. and it's a really good like it's just like a 2D sort of wave based like platformer stroke shooter. So you're just a little demon with a gun, and you have like a dash ability. Like it's so sort of like bullet point like indie game. It's like cool pixel art, like really nice responsive controls, synthwave soundtrack, really difficult but very satisfying. You gather gems and you buy stuff from a shop, which gives you a bit of a leg up. You buy like sort of cool abilities, and you can change your loadout. You have like a limit on how much stuff you can equip, and different levels could like sort of make you experiment with different loadouts. It's sort of like it's fucking great, but I haven't got a huge amount to say about it because it's so like it's just so typical, very good indie game fodder, I guess. Like it's just great fun to play. The level like it owes a lot to Downwell. Have either you played Downwell?
I never played that.
Really good, but it sort of takes a lot of things from that in that like so you can shoot enemies, but also like jumping on them like does a lot of damage as well. And like Downwell had this thing where like when you first start playing it, it's like a really limited color palette. It's like 3 or 4 colors. Then as you play through, you unlock like other color palettes. It does that. It's got like every time you finish a world, it's like you unlock a new color palette, and it's like weirdly cool switching between those. It's just great fun, really good playing in short blasts. Properly enjoying it, and it was like £8 or something.
I'm just watching the trailer now. It looks absolutely awesome with the different colours, like green levels, red levels, blue levels.
Yeah, and like watching a trailer, it looks like incomprehensible, but actually when you're playing it, the sort of the feedback and it's whatever, it's like it remains pretty much entirely readable throughout, even though there's like shitloads of stuff going on. It's not like I saw a review that's like referred to it as bullet hell, which I feel like bullet hell is a term that gets thrown around far too much these days. I feel like a lot of people haven't seen an actual bullet hell shooter. Like they are fucking horrendous. It's not bullet hell by any stretch, I thought. But yeah, just sort of constant, like, interesting sort of minute-to-minute decisions about where to position yourself and, like, oh, shit, enemies are spawning here, I need to be over here. Like, because the whole sort of... Because you can jump on enemies, like, you always have the advantage if you are above them. Like, whereas if enemies are spawning above you, that's something you really need to resolve because if you jump up at them, you will get hit. And yeah, experimenting with different loadouts. There's like all different weapon types and different things that sort of make your dash better, or there's like different ultimate attacks. Like the one you start with is like a giant fucking laser beam, but then there's all different other ones you unlock. Yeah, proper good, quite cheap. And there appears to be like tons of stuff to do in it. There's like loads of levels. Each one you get like extra, badges or whatever for like doing it without using your ultimate or without taking any damage. So if you want to be a completionist about it, there's just like shitloads of stuff to do. So yeah, really like it.
Yeah,
the main.
That's not on Switch and Steam. You played on Switch, did you?
Yeah, I've been playing on Switch. Yeah, and yeah, it's perfect for it. The main game I've been playing this week. So I've been playing a bit of this last week, but I was going to wait. Partly because the show went on for ages anyway, and also waiting for you guys to play it. My time at Portia. No, Matt, I know you've played quite a bit of this. James, have you got into it yet? I know you've played a bit.
I have played it, yeah. I've only played up to the bit we talked about before, which is the where you need to start creating hardwood to make a bridge.
Okay, yeah. So
not far into it already.
It's such a weird game because if I wanted to, I could probably sit here and list loads of things that are wrong with it. Both sort of, in terms of design and technically, especially. So we're playing the Switch version, and there's issues with so the loading times aren't great. There was a day one patch to make them better, but it's very noticeable in places. There's weird sort of stuttering when you chop down a tree, or sometimes if you attack enemies or what have you. The menus,
or if you go to a menu,
yeah, just opening the menus, they're just all a bit sticky. But despite all that, I really love it. I'm just properly absorbed by it, and I don't even know what it is because it's not like it's full of amazing characters or anything, or maybe it is. Maybe I've not spoken to them enough. I'm not in love with the people in it. The world is I really like the way it looks. I know a lot of people aren't so keen.
I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah, the lighting being charitable. The lighting is subtle. It's like they've gone for this really sort of soft lighting, which gives it this sort of cartoony look. But is, I don't know, not everyone is keen on it.
It looks really, really nice on PC. I've been watching some videos over the weekend, and there is it's night and day.
Oh, really?
The PC version, yeah, it looks awesome.
Fair enough.
Yeah, this looks very basic, but the art style doesn't offend me at all. It is sort of cartoony. It's I know what it's trying to do. It doesn't quite reach those heights of like a Ghibli on Switch. Yeah. On PC, it looks a lot better.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely basic in that regard.
Yeah, but basically...
In terms of the charm, so I mean, this is basically like a Stardew Valley style building game / farming game / sort of role-playing game.
Bit of dungeon crawling, bit of romancing if you want.
It's very much in the same sort of Stardew Valley style game, but it's a 3D thing. And I will say, I mean, in terms of charm, I don't think it hasn't really, thus far anyway, got anywhere near the sort of charm that Stardew Valley had. I mean, I absolutely love the characters in Stardew, and I think from even like very, very early on, even very small conversations, you got a real feel about the characters, and it was just like a really lovely, charming environment to be in.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a lot of characters. There's actually shitloads of characters to me. Actually, like 50 odd people I think in the village, to me. And I don't know if it's the way it's presented or actually just like the dialogue itself, but it's just it feels quite flat. And maybe that changes. I know you can basically, there's like a bar to signify how friendly you are with someone, and that can go up to as far as like friend or best friend or like lover, wife, husband. So maybe, and the dialogue changes with that. So maybe that's where you will start to see a bit more of the charm. But I'm going to agree with you. Yeah, definitely, it doesn't really have the charm for me thus far, anyway.
Yeah, I think one of the main things I love about it is that. So like when I said this because I streamed this last week. And I was saying how it's got kind of like some of the worst stuff from like No Man's Sky, right? Well, No Man's Sky, it's like if you want to warp, you need warp fuel. To make warp fuel, you need an antimatter cell and some other shit. And to make each of those, you need 2 other things. And it's like quite annoying in No Man's Sky. And it does that. So quite early on, it's like, right, we need you to build a bridge. And you're like, okay, I've got wood and stuff. I guess I can build a bridge. No, you fucking can't, because you need about 3 other pieces of kit and like other resources that then need to be processed.
You need some bronze pipes.
And it's all sort of, you realise there's like multiple layers to how you produce like these parts of this bridge that people need. But it feels... I don't know. It just feels like worthwhile effort because you are building something. Like it's not just like you do get commissions to build stuff. It's like, oh, I want 4 bookshelves, and you're like, okay, and you build them and you take them to the person. They give you some money, fine. But like so often you are contributing to the infrastructure of the town.
Yeah, that's what's nice about it. You're not doing idle missions. You are actually changing the environment.
Yeah, and you're like, so first off, you build this bridge, and then that gives you access to like this separate island, and then you get asked to like build a fuckload of like these like basically like taxis, and then you have to assemble like the sort of like the stopping
taxi
points
station,
for them. Yeah,
taxi rank,
and then you're like, oh shit, I'm building the fast travel network for the game, and. It just, I don't know, it just feels really good doing that. Like, I just find it really compelling.
It's really satisfying. And I mean, I've been hopelessly addicted to this all weekend. I didn't watch your stream live, I couldn't make it, but I watched it on like, the Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I'd obviously heard this game, and I heard like some people like talking about it, for a few weeks ago, and obviously it came out on PC last year. And so I'd heard of it, but I hadn't really seen much about it. And I watched your stream. I was like, actually, this looks like a Stardew in 3D.
Yeah,
it looks like Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
And after that, I like then started playing like Thursday or Friday, and I must have put like at least 10+ hours in over the weekend.
Yeah,
I'm just like every like spare minute I had, I was just playing this.
Yeah.
It's really addictive, like the gameplay loops. So like, okay, you got this commission, and a lot of it's done on timers, and Timers might sound like a dirty word, because that sounds like that sounds like a free-to-play mechanic you have in a mobile game where you can't do certain things. But it's not that. It's like, okay, well, you need to build this stereo, for instance, and to do that you need some copper pipes, and copper pipes take this long, and then you need to make like this fabric, and that requires these elements, and that takes this long. So you're juggling a lot of that stuff as well, and you have to leave stuff overnight because you can go to bed and leave all like the all the grinders and all your machines working to produce bronze bars and stuff. But it's just like, okay, so I'll get everything ready. I'll get everything like burning or creating in my machines. Maybe I'll then chop down some wood nearby. I'll talk to some people in the town. I'll grab another commission if I've got some extra time. And you also have stamina, a limited amount of stamina each day.
Yeah.
Which actually increases as you level up. But so if I've got stamina left, I'll maybe go to like these like dungeons and do some like mining to get some other materials which I need. And you can also get like rare and random items which also help you when you're building stuff. And it's so addictive.
Yeah.
I've been horrendously addicted this weekend to it.
Yeah. Like the setting is quite good as well, I thought. So like it's not immediately clear, but this is like a post-apocalypse setting basically, and like what's really interesting is there's this sort of conflict. So there's like what are really obviously like or used to be like scientific like compounds or whatever, you know, like these sort of great like big sort of towers and facilities that are now sort of ruined. But like people now make a living like going into the ruins and like digging stuff out, and like Matt says, like finding like artifacts and stuff, which can be things like a fucking thermos flask or whatever. And there's this sort of interesting tension between like there's the church that basically believes that like the reason this apocalypse happened is because mankind put too much into science and went too far down that path, and that's what ruin does. But then there's also this like research lab that are like, no, like we can do science again. We just need to not be dickheads about it this time. And like the resources you gather when you go mining and stuff, like you get these data discs. You can either take them to the church and they'll give you like seeds and stuff, so you can do more farming. And presumably they just like, you know, snap the discs in two and then bin them. Or you can take them to the research place and they teach, you know, and you can buy like a fucking tractor engine or whatever. And it's just like it's an interesting plot point because there are people who like you know, this apocalypse wasn't like a long forgotten thing. It's like you know, it sort of explains like humanity had to like live underground for like 300 years or whatever, and there are people who are like, no, my grandma was like one of the people who like lived through that, and it was awful. Like it's not just this sort of totally arbitrary thing that happened in the past. It's like people that see like it's within living memory. So yeah, I just like as a setting, it's quite cool because you're in like this town of Portia, and then as you say that there's these sort of like mines that you can go in, which are these old facilities that you basically just like dig. You just start digging through the floor, and there's like artifacts hidden there and stuff. But there's also this whole other like section of town that's just been like walled off that you can go to a bit later on, and it is just like it's just full of like quite tough enemies and stuff. And then there's like an actual like sort of combat focused like dungeon mode that you can go into like that way, and it's just there's just so much shit to do.
And even when you're mining, so you go there and like, hey, I need some iron ore, I need like this and the other, and then there's this like scanning mechanic where you press like it's like ZL on the switch, and when you go in that mode, you basically see is like little coloured circles, and that tells you how far away that mining point is, and you basically mine in that direction, then you'll find something. It could be like a rare item, it could be something exciting. But I've found like I've seen a couple of purple ones of those. They're often most of them are like yellow, but purple ones actually took me to like a little building, a little like room which I could enter, and there's really hard enemies in there.
Way.
There's like a treasure chest at the end.
Shit.
And like even when you're like mining in this whole massive area to get these like iron ores or whatever, or copper or whatever, like even then like there's like these old artifacts from the old world. I was going in a direction of one of these areas to dig, and there's like I found a massive boat just under there. Like it's just really really random, but it's kind of cool. I'm trying to get to this thing, and now I need to like dig around this huge ship that's just in here from the olden days. But yeah, like so, I've given every one of my research discs to the scientists. I haven't bothered getting to the church.
Yeah.
What sort of stuff have you done?
So I focused on the scientific research place so far. Just like out of convenience, because the church people I think only appear like on certain days, don't they? For you to hand the seeds over.
Yeah, but pretty much like the whole, like most of the town goes there to those services.
Yeah.
Like, you see them like all going up the hill.
Yeah.
But I'd rather give my discs and stuff to the woman in the research center.
Yeah. And it's just so interesting. Like, so when you get the commission to build, there's like basically they need like 5 of these cars that are like taxis, basically. So you take the commission to build one, and it takes fucking ages. So when I streamed it, that was like pretty much just me trying to build this one car. But then by the time you've built one, you've got all the stuff you need to make cars. So then you get a commission for another one, and it only took me about 10 minutes to build the next one. Because I had all
mine took me ages. And basically I got a message saying, a letter in the morning, which you have like a post box outside your house, and it said, there's these 5 commissions for I think they're called DDs.
Yeah.
These are little taxis. We'd really like it if you took one. So I took one, and then when I went back, there's 4 more, and I was under the impression these are like, you better rush to get one because these are going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, it implies that you're like
they're still available.
It implies that you're in competition with like other workshops in town. And
you are actually in competition. So there's like this like leaderboard of you and the other workshops, and at the end of each week, I think it's weekly, a week in game. There's like a leaderboard. Well, there's a leaderboard permanently, but if you're in the top 3, then you get like different rewards depending on where you've placed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was totally under the impression that, look, you should rush and get one of these commissions because they're going to fly off the shelves. And then when I went back, there's still 4 more. I'm like, okay, so you had me over a barrel there. You lied to me, didn't you? But right at the start of the game, when you're like, you arrive on Portia, and then you like meet the mayor or whoever it is, and he's like, here's some commissions. This is how this thing works. There's a guy called Higgins. Who's like been there for ages? Like you're about to be handed your first commission or show you how commissions work, and this Higgins guy runs up and like nicks your commission.
Yeah, like literally in front of you, just fucking yanks it out of the mayor's hand.
Like, that's mine, you twat. So there's that. What I'm doing now is if as soon as you wake up in the morning, if you go to Higgins like house, you can he's like smelting his like stuff, and you can basically nick an ore every morning. Are you doing that?
No.
If you get there basically around if you run there pretty much straight away between like 8 and 8:30. His machines dump out like whether he's made like a copper bar or bronze bar. You can go there and take it. Like, I wouldn't have done that normally, but the fact that you nicked my first commission,
an arsehole. Yeah.
He's an absolute twat. Yeah. But yeah, like the core gameplay loop is just I'm just horribly addicted to it because it always feels like, okay, you need to make this. I'm like, well, I need to make that. I actually need to upgrade my entire workbench. Okay, so I'll do that, and that might take like a few minutes or a couple of overnights. But then I need to go here to get that because I need that part of the element to add something else. I need to mine this, need to kill that animal, combine them. Then I've got the upgraded workbench. Now I can finally do that other thing that I've got the commission for. But you're juggling a lot of things, but it's just really, really incredibly satisfying.
Yeah, and it's
I'm finding it.
Like you've got this constant thing of like okay, so your goal might be build a car or a bridge or whatever, and like you've always got like goals, but like at different time frames. So you've got like your immediate thing you need to do, or a whole set of immediate things you need to do, and then there'll be like sort of mid-tier, sort of like, because I need these things because I need to build this like processing like piece of kit or whatever, or a new workbench or whatever, and then the one above that is build a car. And it's so even though that ultimate goal might be quite a way off, there are so many steps towards it that you always feel like you're achieving something. You're always working towards stuff. So in that sense, it sort of paces itself really nicely, because you're always like, even though your goal might be like hours away, you've always like taken these like significant steps towards it. It's just so compelling, but it doesn't feel like cynical about it. It's not like, it doesn't feel like it's tricking you into like getting addicted to it. It's just satisfying.
And actually, I think you could probably go only one way and play one way and not even see the other parts. Like, you could basically spend all day talking to all the other residents.
Yeah.
You can spend all day just farming. I mean, I've talked to some people if they pass me, but I haven't really gone out of my way to talk to certain people, and I haven't really bothered with the farming. I've just really focused on upgrading my tools and doing a couple of commissions and stuff to get some money behind me.
Because I
haven't upgraded my house yet, and you can basically buy you can upgrade your house and all the various tools and machines you're using. You can get in furniture sets, and if you get the whole furniture set, that will help you with other attributes, it will increase our defense or attack. There's this whole combat mechanic as well, where you can go to different dungeons, and you can, I believe, enlist the help of other residents to help you go through these quite hard dungeon sections. Right now, I've just been killing certain animals to get fur or teeth or whatever I need from my things I'm building. But there's just so much to do. But I think you could just take it piecemeal and just do the bits you enjoy doing.
Yeah, totally. Like I said, so I also haven't leaned into the farming stuff at all. Which I'm assuming becomes quite a big deal.
I'm definitely talking to Emily, who's the farmer, the farmer next door. Yeah. Definitely doing that. I'm just not bothering with it. And
are you sizing her up, Matt? Is she your future wife?
Possibly. I'm not. I don't want to say anything because Higgins will probably come in and nick her because he's got. Yeah, but I've done lots of missions for her, but I haven't really bothered with the farming just because. I haven't upgraded my house, and I've got hardly any room with all my machines in the house.
So I've bought the first sort of land expansion, and sort of rearranged things. But I've not upgraded the house yet, which I do want to do because it's kind of boring on the inside at the moment. But.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I fixed all the holes. If you fix all the holes in the house, because if you don't do that, you wake up half stammered. What this does different or similar-ish, but also kind of different to Stardew is Stardew. I haven't played for a long time, but from what I remember, if you don't get home in a certain time, you basically punished next day in terms of stamina. I think you fall asleep, and if someone says next morning, "I found you asleep," oh, but you've lost loads of your money and what you had carrying on you. Whereas this basically. So if it's 3 o'clock, if it's 3 in the morning and you're outside, you just wake up in your bed and that's that. There's no real punishment. But I'm all, once it hits 2 o'clock, it says you should be getting to bed pretty soon. And as soon as it hits 3, you fall asleep on the spot you are at that moment, and then you wake up and there's no real repercussions. But what I'm doing is it hits 2 o'clock and I leave a dungeon or leave wherever I am, and I always see Emily walking down the road, and I'm like, Matt, this is not a time to start spark a conversation at 20 to 3 in the morning. Also, she's always walking down it 2:45 in the morning. I'm like, where have you been? Emily, where have you been? You got a farm to run.
Yeah, it's just a farmer, mate. They keep strange hours. It's just what.
Yeah, but you probably. You're saying she's already up. She's been up all night. I was thinking, don't you farmers wake up at 4 in the morning? You're crawling into bed at 3. Come on, you Emily. It's a bit weird. But yeah, but there's no repercussions or issues by just falling asleep where you are. But.
I think, the key difference between this and Stardew is Stardew Valley, which is great. I'm not slagging off Stardew Valley, but...
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, but I know, James, you weren't a massive fan, but you're wrong. Sorry.
Sorry.
It does the whole thing in Stardew Valley where where you're doing the stuff for the sort of spirits in the village hall, and so it'll be get us these 5 different crops or all these different flowers or these different types of stone. And then you sort of offer it, and then they magically repair something in town, or they'll reinstate the bus station that takes you somewhere else, or whatever. It's so that it's quite an indirect relationship. You're just sort of doing jobs, and then some magical spirits do some work for you. Whereas with this, it's no, you fucking build it yourself and you put it together and
you're actually building a town, aren't you?
Yeah, and you just I don't know, just this real sense of contribution and getting stuck in, and I don't know, it's great. I really, really like it.
Yeah, but I mean, I loved Stardew at the time, and even you said, James, it's far too much busy work. Stardew is super relaxing compared to this is much more. You can very easily min-max this, and that's probably why I've been so heavily into it over the weekend, because it's really it's really hit that I don't have to, but I just want to min-max, and I want to I'm just constantly, there's always something else to do. But I think you can play it quite relaxed. But for me, you can be way more intense than Stardew ever was. As much as I love Stardew, and Stardew is amazing, it's got a lot of the same functionality. You can fish and you can do dungeons if you want, and there's loads of other things like that. But this was like a lot of those mechanics, but increase in complexity. But I'm actually all for that. I'm massively enjoying it at the moment.
Yeah, it's like you say,
the game is absolutely huge. So there's a lot still to see.
Yeah, it's like you say, there's a real satisfaction in that sense of running a workshop. Like, like you say, sort of managing, not that you like have to do this, but as you say, sort of trying to be efficient with your time and stuff. You're like, right, shit, well, I've got these 3 commissions. This one needs handing in tomorrow, so I prioritise that. I need to produce these things. And then like, fuck, I could do with an extra smelter. I'll build that first, and then that means just stuff like that. And it just feels good. It's just satisfying to do.
I also feel really bad if I've taken a commission and I'm like, I don't know if I can get it done in time. And I'm like, but I need to do this other thing because I actually want to get something built. And then, I feel like, these guys aren't going to like me in town if I've like, I'll do that. Yeah. Like, after a while, they're going to say, look, Matt, like, you're not going to do it, clearly. So you can't even take anymore. But yeah, I'm hugely enjoying it at the moment. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely got like some technical and performance issues.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's just a Switch thing. But as Sean said at the beginning, it like opening menus can be slow. It doesn't feel buttery smooth like it should do. Even now I can go to a menu and it'll like hang for a second. I'm like, is it going to crash? Is it? No, it's not going to crash. So I haven't had a crash yet. It just hangs a lot of the menus, and it's just a bit slow, and like the menus are a bit unwieldy. And I've played like enough this weekend that I have now got the understanding about what button does what and how I can quickly navigate the menus. But it's by no means perfect.
Yeah, I think like despite all that, I am still glad I have it on the Switch just for it being portable.
Definitely, yeah. I wouldn't play it anywhere near enough if it was on PS4 or Xbox.
Totally.
Or PC.
I'd still, if you don't have a Switch, I would still recommend it on the other formats. But yeah, like, if you've got a Switch and you've been put off by the, technical issues, don't be, because I think it's still worth it overall.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, properly enjoying it. I'm not showing any signs of slowing down. Because I said it'd be interesting, because obviously I streamed it for 2 hours and I was still sort of quite early days, and I was saying it'll be a fun one to like do another stream of it in like a month or whatever, and hopefully it'll all be like completely different. So yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's just a great game. It's your stream that sold me. I'm like, well, I've heard about it, but now I've watched it. I'm all over it. So cool. Yeah, I can't wait to play more.
Yeah, that's all of mine. Have you got any more, Matt?
No, I mean, I've streamed Bloodborne Sunday, but it's mostly been time at Portia, and I don't really want to play anything else, in all honesty.
Fair dues. Emails.
Okay. James, that's you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Are you hanging in there? We'll see.
Just about, yeah.
So hand, like, time-wise, is it like 5 in the morning? Yeah, it's 5 in the morning. Okay.
I've gone through the whole night. It's fine. Okay. If you want to email us, it's podcast@thecommunitygameshow.com. David Trapmore says, hi all. When starting a big RPG, do you have to have a go? Do you have a go-to type? That doesn't make any sense.
If you have a go-to type of character.
Do you have a go-to type?
Should be a hyphen in there.
When starting a big RPG, do you have a go-to type of character / class? Do you ever agonise over what class to be? It happens to me a lot, as I know I'm probably only going to play such a long game once and do not want to regret the decision. Very excited to play Dragon's Dogma again on the Switch. Never got anywhere close to finishing it before, but I can't decide what class to go with. Usually go with sword and shield, big armour type characters, but I've heard the game's magic system is very good and crazy. What do you think?
So generally speaking, I think I generally go for sort of like rogue type classes, so a lot of damage and sneaking around and shit. Don't know why. I think that's one of the reasons I'd never enjoyed Skyrim as much as everyone else, because I feel like every dungeon took me like 3 times as long to do, because I always wanted that damage bonus from not being spotted before attacking someone. So I'm like sneaking into every possible encounter, whereas if I'd just gone for like a warrior type, I'd just be charging in and beating the shit out of everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely me. On the Dragon's Dogma point, I think the mage classes are okay. The really interesting sort of magic class is the what's he called? It's basically like the mage / warrior cross that you get later on, where it's like you sort of you like imbue your shield with magic spells, and then by doing like a perfect guard, like it's basically like doing like a parry, it then like then sort of that's how you shoot like the magic spell with it. So it's just properly interesting. There's also a magic archer, which is basically like, obviously it's like a medieval RPG, but it feels a bit like playing Res. You have this magic bow and you just like paint targets and like then let go, and all these fucking bolts fly everywhere. It's fucking like really good. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is actually, if I have the choice, then I usually go for, I mean, in the older Elder Scrolls game, they used to call them spell swords.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the ones that, and that's kind of what I usually go for. It's like, you know, the ones that are like magic armoured mages, you know, that kind of thing. You know, using magic hand weapons. Yeah. I usually go for that if I can.
Yeah.
I don't really play enough RPGs to do it, but for any sort of game where there is different classes, I typically go for like a stealthy one if possible, because then it means I can avoid combat if I'm just rubbish at it. But for things like so it's that really.
Yeah.
But so Dragon's Dogma, like on that. So is this going to have a whole new life on Switch? And are you quite excited or?
I am.
Or what?
I mean, I am excited. It is like one of my favorite games of all time.
What sort of game is it again? So is it like an Oblivion style game or what?
Yeah, it's like a third-person action RPG. That like on the face of it is like, oh, you get like at the start a dragon steals your heart, and then it means you're the one who has to kill the dragon. And you're like, right, okay, this doesn't seem particularly interesting. And then, mild spoilers, you fight the dragon, and then it turns out there's like way more shit going on, and it does like a half-hearted credit sequence, and you're like, is this it? Like, because it's quite a cool fight and everything, but it doesn't feel as final as it could. And then like a major event happens, and the game carries on and gets way better and more interesting. It's a properly fascinating game.
Is it open world or is it?
It's open world, yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah. And it's yeah.
I've obviously known of this, but mostly for the stuff you spoke about. And like, I never actually have ever looked into what it was, but I remember you always saying like, the ending is incredible,
yes.
or what it stands for.
Yeah.
I even though at the time I had no intention of playing it, I never actually ever looked into it, and that's always a bit. Even before this was announced on Switch, I've always been like, I wonder what that Dragon's Dogma thing even was.
Is
this going to be like a full price like release?
No, I think it's like £25 on the Switch, which is a bit steep, given that this game's like a full generation old or whatever. But apparently the Switch port is like flawless.
And does this include like, is there DLC?
Yeah, so there was like an expansion which they released as like a standalone release, so it sort of included the base game as well. But yeah, that was, I mean, it's very hard, but the stuff it does sort of story wise is fascinating. It's just like the combat's cool as fuck. It's like really open ended. So you'll fight like a chimera, so it has like a part of it's a lion, part of it's a goat, and then part of it's like a snake, and like each part of it takes damage independently. So and each part has different abilities. So like if you kill like the goat part of it does like the magic spell. So if you kill the goat, which I think is at the back, then like it can't do magic spells anymore, and it because it kills that part of the creature, it then changes the way it like animates and behaves, because you're essentially, it's got this creature that like half of it is dead and can't move, so the lion's sort of dragging around this sort of dead sort of rear half, and just like loads of fascinating stuff. There's like, you fight these like griffins, which they swoop down at you, and you can jump and like grab onto them. It has this sort of Shadow of the Colossus style like climbing system, so you can grab onto enemies, climb around on them, and then it'll just fucking take off, and it's like flying around with you on it, and then you have to try and like cause like fire damage to its wings, so that it then falls back, like crashing back to earth with you still fucking clinging to it. It does all this fascinating stuff. There's like a shop in the game that will counterfeit items. So there's a quest where this one guy's like, there's this magic book that lets you do really powerful magic, and I want it, and I need it. Oh, it's like, it's been stolen from me, I need you to get it back. And you go through this whole quest to get it back, and then you can, before you actually hand it in, you can go to the counterfeiting shop, get a counterfeit made of it, and then give the guy the counterfeit. And then there's like a mission later on where you're fighting this big enemy, and he fucking steps in. He's like, "It's okay, guys, I got the fucking magic book. I'm gonna sort it."
Oh no!
And then he doesn't do anything because. but equally, like you can swap items. Like there's just so much mad shit in this game. You have these things called pawns, which are like basically like your sort of AI assistant. You have like your main pawn, but then you have 2 other slots in your team where you can hire other people's main pawns, and you can use them to swap items with other players. So you could do the mission to get the magic book, get a counterfeit made of it, give the magic book to the guy in the game, but then give another player the real magic book so that they can take the quest and then immediately go like, oh yeah, here you go, I've got it. And like, so you can speedrun it in all these really weird ways if other people help you out and just give you like essential items for certain parts. It's fucking nuts, and it's such an interesting game. And I really hope more people check it out. Now that's coming out.
It's out tomorrow.
Shit.
On Switch. Yeah.
Okay. I should probably pre-order that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, but my time at Portia, maybe when that's calmed down, I'll be on that.
Yeah, there
it
is
does sound
that.
interesting.
Yeah. And also, sorry, I fucking Dragon's Dogma, I can bang on about it all day. The interesting thing with the pawns is that when they... So, like, obviously your main pawn can be hired by other players, right? And it's all totally asynchronous, so it's not like your pawn actually disappears.
This is other like real life players.
Yeah.
Not AI. This is okay.
Yeah, so someone could hire. So I have my pawn, who's like my best mate, and I've customized him and stuff, and I choose his gear and his character and everything. Other people can hire him, and he doesn't. When he's away with other people, he doesn't gain experience points, he doesn't level up, but he does learn what to do in certain missions or how to fight certain enemies. You can see like how much knowledge they have of like certain quests or like how to defeat a certain type of enemy. So they might learn that wolves hate fire or whatever. And then so like he'll come back into your game and he'll be like, oh, I know what to do here. I will imbue your weapon with fire because that will help loads. Or equally, like if you've got a mate who's finished the game, you can hire their pawn and like literally you'll start a mission. Say it's like a mission where you're going through like a dungeon or whatever, and you get to a locked door. It'll just be like, "Oh, the key's over here. Follow me," and it'll just fucking run off. And it's an absolutely
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a fascinating system. By Dragon's Dogma, it's good.
Yeah. It does sound good actually.
Okay, next email.
Yep.
This is from SMW. He says, I believe there is a huge market of potential gamers out there who, via game streaming to TVs, could support big budget versions of new or revived game genres. Sports are an easy example of this. People who would never see themselves as gamers and wouldn't pay to buy hardware, but would happily play a rugby, snooker, or tennis or cricket game, etc. Outside of more traditional sports games, could we see games that cater for 8 million people who watch Coronation Street every week, the 13 million who tune in for Strictly Final, or the 14 million who watch Planet Earth 2? Mobile gaming has shown there is a massive market for weird and wonderful games if non-traditional gamers already have the means of access available to them. Do you think streaming services like xCloud and Stadia could lead to AAA revivals of more niche genres, or is the mass market happy enough with lower quality budget games on a free-to-play model? I think he's just answered his own question there, but
Yeah, I'll be honest. When I first read this, I was like, I didn't understand a single word of it. I was like, what do you mean? But I do. So from what I gather from the email, it's basically like, are we going to see? I guess casual games are going to hit like the mass market in a way that
Even more.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I guess if you get like public transport to and from work, you see like anyone, people of all ages and all sorts of people playing basically match-free puzzle games on their phone and all sorts of games, really. I'm constantly surprised to see like people playing almost like RTS games on their phone. If you look at them, you wouldn't potentially like suspect that they're that sort of gamer or that they're a gamer at all, but people are finding these games. But I think something like xCloud or Stadia feels like another more complex level. I don't think it's something they're just going to chance upon. Whereas, lots of people have a smartphone and they have like apps downloaded anyway, and it's not a huge leap to then also find like a game to spend some time to do on the commute. Whereas Stadia or xCloud, that's going to require, I think, a lot more thought and an actual interest in it. You're not going to chance upon that. You're not going to find that.
Yeah, and I think most normal people who aren't already interested in this stuff, like there is still a bit of a hardware buy-in, isn't there? Because you're probably going to need the controller or a Chromecast or whatever, and that's already a level that I think the sort of audience he's talking about probably can't be asked with.
But also, I mean, all the Amazon and Apple and Google to a degree, I expect as well, like, have all tried doing this anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it doesn't get beyond, like, crappy free-to-play games, does it, really, at the moment?
Yeah.
You know, like, in terms of that, it's...
I mean, maybe for sort of, you know, sort of largely sort of passive story-based stuff, that could be interesting, but then we're already seeing that with Netflix, and they're sort of trying, you know, sort of trying out the interactive stuff, which is, you know, with mixed results.
Is that Bear Grylls one out already? I think
it is.
Isn't it?
Have
you tried it?
I haven't, but I've heard you can basically just spend an evening just killing him in really gruesome ways. So
I'm quite interested in it. But,
is it like drink urine out of a snake and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
basically is that as far as I'm aware,
down in a swamp and stuff. I see what he's getting at, but I think, I mean, okay, so yeah, games that cater for the 8 million people who watch Corrie every week is an interesting idea, but I think the key thing is that, like, for people who are, you know, who follow a soap like Corrie, like, that's just a thing that just falls into their lap at a set time every week. People enjoy the routine of it, and they enjoy then talking about it at work or whatever.
And, like, just sitting down, turn their brain off.
Yeah,
not really required to do anything.
Yeah,
else.
I think it being passive is a big part of that.
You see a lot of people playing like free to play games and match free and stuff, but that's because they're on the commute and they got nothing else to do, I guess. But the idea of like one of these things being transcendent from a traditional game consoles, because maybe in like 5 years every smart TV will just have this stuff built in and you can just play xCloud or Stadia or whatever. It's just an app on your TV and you can play it using your phone. Maybe it will become that easy, and maybe with enough advertising, it could just be like, oh, everyone's got a game console now because it's just on every device you have. Yeah. And maybe there will be. It'd be interesting if like old genres or new genres pop up that can cater for that. But who knows?
Where it makes the money in it is the thing.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. As soon as like the Strictly game comes out on Stadia, then it'll be there all over it.
Right, is that it for emails?
That's it for emails.
Cool.
Let's go on to tweet. If you want to tweet us, it's at Computer Game Pod on Twitter. Thomas Lamafla42 starts us off. After James tweeted the tomato convenience store, what other strange shops can you tell us about from his time in China? Have you seen anything that's more mad compared to the last time? Anything else that's popped up in recent years?
Not really. I mean, there was the place where I used to live where they had this shop that sold doors, and it was called the Ministry of Interior Doors. Which was
brilliant.
I don't know why. That was good. There's a lot less brothels now than there used to be, which is probably also because of the political climate. There used to be loads of those. But so
are they legal over there? What's the deal?
No, they're not legal.
Okay.
It's did I ever tell you the funniest thing I ever saw with that? Actually, no, I shouldn't. No, it's all right.
No, go on. Go on, you can.
Because it's just terrible. It's a terrible story. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Oh my God. The listeners are dying now.
No, it's terrible.
It's like the thing on the bus.
I was going to say, James is just hoping this replaces the bus thing.
Yeah.
No, it's nothing I did or anything. It's something I saw, and it was just it was okay. Basically, what it was
okay.
that,
Here we go.
See, what they have is they have like these like it's called like massage place, but it's not really. It's not really that. Yeah. And as I said, they don't really exist so much anymore, but they used to be like everywhere, like all the time. Particularly because they like cater for like migrant workers that are like coming into the city, from the countryside and stuff. And I just remember once seeing, because what they always do is they always have like women like sitting in the windows, like as you walk past and stuff. And that was always awkward.
Yeah, because if you're going to get a massage, you're like, I want to know who's going to give me a nice massage because I've got a really like stiff neck. I said neck, and I want to know who's going to give me a lovely old massage.
Yeah. So you walk past. I mean, I remember I used to walk past like with my daughter when she was like born. I'd be like carrying her or whatever, and they'd like see you and they'd like be like waving at you and like beckoning you to come into the place. So I'm with my daughter. Yeah. It's that's messed up.
Yeah. But my neck is stiff, so maybe I'll find a crash.
But then one time I saw this old man like walk in there, and he like walked into this is terrible. He like walked into there, and then like looked at the woman that was sitting there on the stool. Just shook his head and then walked out.
Christ!
And it was just so awful. Just the whole thing was just awful. It's just.
I guess maybe she wasn't like a chiropodist, or maybe there wasn't a specialism.
It probably was that. Yeah, it was something like that.
I would assume
totally.
So.
But as I said, but under Xi Jinping, if that's all that stuff, there's much less of it. It's all gone underground now. I've heard.
So it's still right. Yeah, it's still going on as much as it was. It's just not okay.
It's just not as obvious because they used to have this thing whereby, because the police used to go and like raid these places all the time. But it's like it was all based on like if you knew people and stuff, then it was fine because you could just pay the police and it's okay. It's but they used to be everywhere, but not so much now. Yeah.
And is it? No, fuck it. No, sorry, we're getting way too much into this. Carry on.
No, go on. What was you gonna say? You might as well.
I was just gonna say because I know because the reason organised prostitution isn't allowed here is because because that opens up the door to women actually being really badly treated. How is it in China? Is it?
It's not great.
Yeah,
it's not great. And I mean, part of it is also because of this transient population of people that are coming into construction work and stuff like that, and they're away from their families for long periods of time, and it's just the whole thing. I mean, you can there's tons of research on this because it's awful. Yeah. The whole situation is terrible.
Grim.
But when I was in Prague, I went to the stag do a couple of weeks ago in Prague. The location of which I accidentally revealed on this podcast because it was a city. We hadn't told the stag where we're going, and I totally forgot. Well, I didn't think he listened. He's mentioned it. He listened in the past, but I just forgot. I know one of my friends, Johnny, definitely does, but I didn't think Chris did. And I think there's a question about holiday destinations, and I was like, I think I'm going to Prague in the summer, and then maybe stop myself. Anyway, he found out where location was because of the podcast. So sorry about that. But anyway, we're in Prague, and we there was in the apartment building which we stayed, there's a strip club.
Right.
And when we were getting a taxi, we were out on the night, obviously, and we got a cab back. We're like, oh yeah, it's where the Rio strip club is. He's like, there's no Rio strip club. I was like, no, it's in locations. Like, oh, you mean the Rio brothel? Like, oh, okay. That explains so much. That explains so much.
Lovely,
actually. Anyway, Prague's amazing. If you guys haven't been, it's an awesome place to be. Next question. Let's anything not about brothels. Let's see. Okay, Adam Capone. An excitement for Dreams. I bought the beta recently for $24.99. Loving it so far. Hopefully, someone somewhere eventually uses it to make a TCGS show game. It's out now, isn't it? It's
early access.
Beta.
Yeah. I mean, what I played of the beta a couple of months back, I wasn't fussed. Maybe if I had the time to make stuff with it. But I think, as I said at the time, I just I was playing through all the stuff that people had made and stuff from people from Media Molecule. Some of it was really visually really interesting, but I just felt a lot of it was okay, it's a first person shooter, but it's not actually as good as a real one. Oh, it's a driving game, but it's not actually as good as a real driving game, etc.
Yeah, but TCGS fans tweeted us last week, but we ran out of time. But basically, they also said, "Oh, but modelling things in 3D and PSVR might be actually groundbreaking. That's the only bit, the VR bit." And originally, I thought the whole game's in VR, but now it's they're going to add it in later or whatever. But yeah, the idea of making things in 3D for PSVR, that's a whole different thing. If we can, the idea of making levels in VR is so much more interesting to me. Yeah. Than just making a 2D thing. So I'm very interested to see what that's like. And if people say that's a worthwhile experience, I will probably buy it for that alone. Yeah. Even though I have no interest in making levels normally. But maybe if I can, I can make things I can make huge things and see the scale and, all the things we love in VR. Yeah. So I'll be interested to see what that's like when that does eventually drop. Yeah. A Shawnee boy, the Farley. My brother is off to China in 3 weeks at the end of June. Chengdu and Beijing. Any recommendations or things to see, taste, or do? He's never been before.
If he's going to Chengdu, then definitely eat loads of Sichuan food because it's great. And Beijing's okay. It's fine. I mean, there's just try some Xinjiang food and stuff like that. All that stuff's really good. Just the food. Right. The food is really good.
Just eat loads of food over there.
Yeah.
That's
the recommendation. Have the Sichuan food in Chengdu because it's really spicy and very good.
We're going to end this one because James is basically dying out the wheel because it's 5 o'clock, given the time difference. Okay, Oodles O'Doom. Is Easter's a favourite chocolate bar? Mine's a classic Snickers. Let's end on an easy one. Sean.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the Snickers. I don't know what my favourite would be, though. I'm not much of a chocolate guy. I'm more of a Mao-am man, to be honest.
Oh, the thing is, you can't eat a bag of Mao-am. Like, you can't just like buy one in a shop and then walk down the road and eat them, can you?
I can.
I can't.
Absolutely, I feel like death afterwards.
I feel bad actually. Like if I've bought like a meal deal at lunch, and I'm like, there's like a small lot shopping area like near the office, and I like buy that. Maybe I'll buy like a toffee crisp. Is my answer, by the way. For bar. And if I'm like walking down the road eating a toffee crisp, I just feel I'm not a fan of it.
I know what you mean.
Awkward.
Yeah.
I don't quite know why.
It's a bit like
it's
a bit like when you see like a set of swings and you're like, do you know what? I quite fancy a go on them, but I just can't.
Love a swing.
It's inappropriate.
Yeah.
You don't do that. I still do that. I still go on the swings.
Do you? I should.
Yeah, but would you eat a toffee crisp walking down the road?
Probably.
Okay.
I don't know what I feel awkward about it. I don't know what like.
There's just something infantile about it, I think. But sitting at your desk and eating one's absolutely fine. So why?
It's fine. You've seen the size of me. Of course, I'm not bothered about it. It's fine.
Okay, so favourite chocolate bar, James?
I don't know, Mars maybe.
Mars?
I don't know, something like that.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
What? That's basic.
My actual I don't know. Actually, it's a toss up between Lion and Bounty.
Different needs,
I
both
love
of
a Bounty, mate.
I bloody love crunchies, but I do generally feel weird about eating them not on a Friday.
Well, I tell you, I do Maltesers as well.
That's not a chocolate bar, Farley.
I know, but it's
also. What was your choice there, James?
Maltesers.
Maltesers are brilliant.
Yeah, they're not chocolate bar.
We are like fucking spoiled for chocolate here, though. To be fair, like you forget that, like when people visit here from America, they just like buy loads of Cadbury's, which to us is just like default normal chocolate. Whereas actually, if you're used to American stuff, it's fucking amazing.
But yeah, toffee crisp, or depending on what day you ask me, maybe double decker, but probably toffee. Like when I was, very young, doing my paper rounds. So what's that, like 12, 13? I don't know when that starts. Like on payday on Saturday when I got my £16,
nice.
I bought an apple tango and a double decker. That was
you didn't have them together, did you? That doesn't work.
Yes, it's a little treat, like a cheeky apple tango and a little double decker.
Surely once you've had a bit of the chocolate, the tango will just taste like acid.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mind.
What you want to do, mate, is get a chocolate bar and then just a little bottle of milk.
I would have been beaten up in the off licence, Sean, if I did that.
Yeah, but it tastes good.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We're done.
Okay.
Thanks for your questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, yeah, this ended up being a long one. Sorry, James. You're probably about,
it's 11 o'clock.
Probably about to pass out. Right, thanks very much, everyone. James, good to have you back. Sorry you're dying.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Watch the streams, give us your subs, really appreciate it, and thank you for letting us be natural. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Sorry, I was totally babbling